Hello and welcome to my stream, everybody. This is going to be my first stream, so hopefully I've worked out all the OBS bugs, let's just say, as far as getting audio working properly and all that kind of stuff.
Hello, how are you?
Alright, so basically, I'm in the game Worm Online. You'll know me as Neville. You can see my name here when I scroll, and if you examine me, Neville from Free Miles, Lord of Applebrooke Ridge, which is my deed, and I'm on the Freedom Cluster. I am a master blacksmith and master platesmith in the game, amongst other skills, and we're at my deed right now. So let me swap back quickly to Neville's view. Alright. So that's my priest over there. His name is Longbottom. I have another priest, his name is My Love, or My Love, or whatever. But it's a female priest. This is my Powwheeler priest in the making. My other one's currently Powwheeler, but probably going to end up switching it to Venora once the priest update happens. So basically in the priest update that's coming down the pipe from the test server, once it's live, apparently they're going to let previous priests re-roll their religion without losing faith or whatever. So basically you just switch religion and you'll be able to start enjoying the benefits of being a priest of whatever you want to be, Venora or whatever you decide. So in my case, because I have two Powwheeler priests, I'm going to make one a Venora and I'm going to keep one as Powwheeler for BOTD enchants. So I'm probably going to make my higher level priest the Venora, which means I'll have to work on this one's channeling. But anyway, to get to what we're doing, so right now I'm basically just improving these rare frying pans. I need to get them up to 90 quality, mainly because from what I've read with regards to the cooking system, the quality of the frying pan combined with your hot food cooking skill determines the quality of the meal, apparently, or something like that. So just to be safe, I'm already a proficient blacksmith, so I'm just gonna amp these as high as I can go without getting too many fails. I'll go up to 90, and if I see it's worth pushing past 90, I'll keep pushing them past 90. So basically, I used to stream in the past, and when I streamed in the past, my life situation was a lot different than it is now. So at the time I was working and, you know, was in a relationship with my common law spouse. We had our daughter with us. Everything has changed. So basically, her and I separated and split up last year, and my daughter's under guardianship now with my ex's dad, who actually likes me a lot, and we have no issues with one another. The main reason she ended up in guardianship in the first place was not because of us breaking up. It was actually because of a health procedure I was supposed to go for that ended up being cancelled. But because it ended up being cancelled, we just left her under his care, since at the time we decided to separate. So not long after that. So we put her under guardianship because I was going to go for a medical procedure, and then we find out it's not going to happen, and then we separate, and then we decide, well, She's already there for the school year. May as well just let her. Um, since we didn't get to settle all of our affairs, and we're now a year later, actually past a year later, we kept her under his care, mainly because both of us need to get our finances in order and sell the house and all that stuff. So, needless to say, I've now moved into my own place, and so has she. And we put the house up for sale, and now I'm waiting for that to happen. So, because I don't have my daughter here, and I don't have my a spouse with me anymore, and I'm alone, and I don't have my cat either because, you know, pets, some buildings don't allow pets, some people who are renting don't want pets. I'm actually in the basement of a house. And normally, of course, people would be like, well, why are you telling us all these details? You don't have to. And I'm like, I don't really care. It doesn't really bother me. But I figured it's probably worth understanding a little bit about why I have more time now and I didn't before. Before it was all about, you know, work and the wife and my daughter and all of that. And now that I live alone and circumstances have changed, well, let's just say I have a lot more time on my hands. So, and also I'm waiting for surgery, so, and that's not going to happen for a long time until things progress a little bit on my end. So, um, it's to do with my health. So basically, my health has to change status. I guess that's the way I'll explain it for now, before I'm eligible for this surgery, but I'm on disability in the interim. So, again, lots of time on my hands. Now, it's probably not going to be a professional stream like, you know, what you're used to with like Factional Fight or Catspur, because I'm just one person doing it. You know, I don't have a camera showing my face, which really you don't really need it. But nonetheless, you know, it's not going to be at that level, so don't expect anything too fancy. But nonetheless, reason why we're here today, imping these frying pans. So let me explain the context for that. So, actually, before we get onto that topic, just real quick. So I used to stream before. I didn't have time. I ended up stopping streaming. Back then, I actually created about 5 different episodes. And I actually spent the time doing video editing and adding an intro video and an intro song and all of that. I'm not sure if I want to do that again or just put out videos as is. It's a lot of work to do all that extra little editing and stuff for, I don't know, not much gain, I guess. I mean, especially since I'm just starting out and I don't even know if anybody's going to be interested in this or want to watch it. So, I guess we'll see. Anyway, I've been in the game now for what? Well, the account itself is over 3 years old. My main account. My time played is less than that. It's about 80 days of played time, something like that. I started off at Glass Hollow on Xanadu as a guy roaming around, not really knowing what I was doing and being a noob. And then I didn't like that account, so I created another account and abandoned the other one. And then I moved to I-15 on Xanadu, which is the middle of the map. West of Greymead, there's a lake, and there's an island in the middle of that lake. And it's the lake at I-15. And yeah, I used to live on that island. And when I first started off, it was just me and one other person who kind of got to know each other at first. And we created a huge alliance that included the whole lake. And the only drawback to that is when everybody is separated by boat or long distances or whatever, and it's not easy to get to everybody, there's not much community action going on within the alliance. You know, like, okay, we were talking to each other and stuff like that, and, you know, we had some jokes and some laughs and whatever. But in terms of actually being a community where you barter with each other, you share each other's mats, you help each other build things, that really kind of like didn't happen. So there was no community projects or anything like that. So, you know, I think the alliances that actually do best in this kind of game are the alliances that you plan out so that basically you find a huge piece of land, you get a whole bunch of your friends, and you go establish yourselves on that land, and you each pick a spot on where you want to deed on that same strip of land, and you interconnect each other's deeds such that all of the deeds combined become one huge, basically, deed or community area, so to speak. And then you help each other out in building roads and buildings and walls and whatever else. And you're all close together, so if you ever need to trade with each other, you're all right there. You can work together as a community to to pool your skills and items and things, and maybe launch a shop page for your alliance and sell everybody's things on that shop page and get everybody money that way. Or like maybe you get together and all hammer out a bunch of materials and split the profit. I don't know, there's all kinds of cool kind of ideas you could come up with for community. Um, so if I was to make another alliance, that's probably what I would end up doing. Um, that way there, you know, everybody's got more of a community feel to things, rather than just each having your own separate deeds wherever they may lie and no real connection to them to each other. Um, so anyway, I ended up moving down here to like M20 from I-15, so I actually had to move by ship all of my stuff and start from scratch here. I'll give you a little tour of the deed after I get these frying pans zipped up. Um, Now I have a priest, and like I mentioned, and one day I got a pan filling service from Rob Z. I bet you guys probably know who that is, or if you're on Xanadu you would know, or if you don't, well now you do. But anyway, this guy Rob Z used to do pan filling service. Every so often he comes back to the game and offers that service, and then sometimes he just disappears again. There's another guy that does it, his name is Velinor, I believe, and he comes into the game doing pen filling service from time to time as well. So in any case, the reason why a pen service is nice is if you don't want to spend all the time leveling cooking yourself and you want to just get it up to 90 quickly, you have the money to support it, you pay somebody to come to your deed and they bring all of the materials that they need. You can either provide the materials or they could bring it with them. And of course they'll charge you more of a fee if they have to bring stuff for you. But nonetheless, you pay a fee to them and they will sit at your forges and give you your cooking, your hot food cooking, power level it for you. Um, you don't need to give your physical password. In other words, you don't have to say, my password is XYZ. You can actually just give them the password hash from your worm files. I won't explain how to do that, but there is, it's easy. But there's no point going into detail on that. But basically you get your password hash for your account and you give it to the person who's come to do the pan filling. And by putting that hash in their file on their end, they're able to just log into your account and have it work. So that way there, they don't have to know your password, and then once you change it, the hash will change and they won't be able to log in anymore using that hash. So it's a safer way of doing things. But in any case, these guys you can usually trust anyway. If they've done it for several people and they're well known and well trusted, you don't really need to worry. But nonetheless, take your security seriously. Um, Anyway, I did get a pan filling service for my priest, and I got power leveled essentially to hot food cooking 90. Um, Now, what I've been doing is, okay, I have 90 hot food cooking, and I have a bunch of materials that I purchased a while back that I can use for cooking. That's stored in my food storage bins and stuff. But what am I gonna cook, right? I mean, okay, so yes, it's cool, the hot food cooking and the new recipe system where you open a recipe book and all your recipes are stored and you can make all kinds of different meals and discover different kinds of meals and all of that. And that's kind of cool. But is it really that useful in the game? Well, I don't know. It depends on your point of view, I guess. Some people love doing it. Other people do it only for when they need it, and some people don't do it hardly at all. The main reason I did hot food cooking on my priest is because, from what I understand, it helps to have soul depth. Now, initially, I thought that discussion was nullified. I thought that when Worm Unlimited came out, they said, oh, actually, soul depth does nothing for priests whatsoever. And then the rune system came out and made use of soul depth and all that kind of stuff. But I was talking to a priest the other day, just a couple days ago, and she's 98 channeling with a Venora priest. And her soul depth is sitting somewhere around 50. And she has a feeling that it does do something. So I don't know if it's true or not. That's a question I'm going to put out to the audience here. If anybody knows whether or not priests actually do benefit from having soul depth. Does it improve your success or failure rate when you're casting? Does it give you a better chance of getting higher casts? Like, what's the benefit to priests, if any? Now, then I said, okay, let's assume for a moment that she's right and that soul depth does make a difference. How do you get your soul depth up quickly? And I asked her this question, and she basically told me you grind meals. In other words, you just create a whole ton of meals, and as you create those meals, your soul depth continues to rise. Now, I have no idea what complexity these meals are, or how many you have to create in order to get up to her level of soul depth, which was, I think, around 50, or how long that would take. Now, I had my character power level to 90 hot food cooking, which means you would think, oh, okay, well, maybe the soul depth is really high. But it's not. It's not that high, actually. So let me switch back to Longbottom for a minute, and I'm going to show you that my soul depth is right now sitting at 24.2, which is a far cry from 50. And yet my hot food cooking is 90, but my soul depth is only 24.2. So 90, 24, big difference. So how many of these meals with hot food cooking am I going to have to create to get this to 50? It sounds like it's going to be a lot. Now, here's the other thing. Apparently with the cooking system, the best way to get gains, skill gains, and I'm assuming this includes soul depth, but I'm not 100% sure, is your hot food cooking skill minus 20. So since I'm 90, my hot food cooking skill is 90. So my meals, the difficulty of my meals should actually be 70 if I want to get the best possible skill gain, because they say every point you go away from 70, or sorry, every point you go away from that minus 20, your skill minus 20, is less of a chance of getting proper skill gains. So if you're 90 and you're making 65 difficulty meals, you're not getting as much skill gain as though you were to create 70 difficulty meals at 90. So basically what I did is I went in here in my oven. I don't have it in here right now actually. But what I did is I went into my oven over there and I created a meal, just a really easy meal. It's nothing special. It's nothing from the cooking guides or the recipe book or nothing like that. And I'll show you what that is in a minute, but just to see like how many ingredients would it take to create a basic meal. In other words, something with meat and veggies and maybe a little bit of each food or category type, right? So like there's different kinds of types of foods in the game, right? So there's like meat, there's nuts and fruits, which is its own, I believe, category. There's crops, which includes all the crops that can be farmed, like carrots and potatoes and things like that. And then there's herbs like rosemary and spice like not turmeric, but what's that spice? Cumin and other stuff, ginger and stuff like that. So basically, I thought to myself, well, what if I create a meal? Because I'm also, 90 hot food cooking. I may as well create something that's gonna fill up my CCFB bars or something, right? Which is the bars you see up here. So there's well, there's nutrition, but there's also calories, carbs, fats, and proteins. And in order to get these calories, carbs, fat, and protein up, apparently you have to create some meals that have some decent complexity to them. And I'm kind of a noob when it comes to the cooking system, so forgive me. But I didn't look into exactly what specifically gives you those values, but basically all I was doing was I'm going to create a recipe that has very wide coverage, that has one of each type of food in it, and then I can just add and subtract to meet my hot food cooking difficulty, target difficulty, which in my case right now is 70. And if I can do that, and it ends up creating a meal that's decent quality and fills up my CCFB bars, that's great. It means it gives me some extra meals to have. But it also means I could use those meals for taming, right? Because I have to churn out a whole bunch of them if I'm going to get my soul depth up. And I also want to see as a test, is it working as far as getting my soul depth up quickly? I'll probably have to create a number of those meals to find out, but I didn't want to follow any specific recipe or make pizza or anything like that. All I wanted to do is create some kind of simple meal with simple ingredients that can be farmed and such and whatnot. That's fairly easy to add and subtract to get the difficulty, desired difficulty. And again, that's not caring about affinity or anything like that, which is a whole other sort of discussion. So I'm just gonna keep plugging away at this, get this up to 90 real quick. Actually, if I could push it past 90. Because my hot food cooking is 90, so I may as well have a frying pan that's capable of pushing 90 quality meals, because apparently the quality affects what you can get, right? So if I'm going to be 90 HFC, I may as well have 90 quality frying pans. And these happen to be rare. Oh, and the meal, the meal that I ended up putting together, which I'll show you about once I get this done, it has to use a frying pan. So I took the same ingredients and I dumped them in a saucepan and different containers just to see what would happen, and basically it doesn't do anything in any of the other containers. It's not a meal that is recognized by Worm and its cooking system. So when you put ingredients in a frying pan and you right click on it and you click lore, it tells you whether or not it's a valid meal. And in my case, it continued to be valid as I added all those different ingredients. And the ones that it didn't work with, I had to remove. So, let's try putting flour in it and see if it's still a valid meal. Let's try putting, I don't know, like cereal in the meal and see if it's still a valid meal. Stuff like that, right? So I had to remove anything that wasn't working, basically. But what I was trying to do is essentially replicate a real life stew. Except in the game, it's not really stew because a stew in real life includes some liquid and stuff, and I didn't add any liquid to my meal in the game here. So it actually comes out as a beef meal, but a very complicated beef meal because it has a whole bunch of ingredients you can add and subtract to create a certain difficulty of meal. So once I show you what that is, it's actually pretty neat. Now, if this works, I'll be very happy because it means that my theory on what I wanted to achieve worked. Meaning I want to create a meal that's similar to a real life meal using the same kind of ingredients and be able to add and subtract to it based on my cooking skill and raise or lower the difficulty as needed. But I also want to be able to have something that can be replicated for other people to use, no matter what their skill level is. And I want to see if the system is going to actually let me store that custom sort of meal as my own in a recipe book. Because apparently the system allows you to create your own recipes. And I don't know what is required in order to have that happen. I know that there's a cooking guide, and I did look at some of it, but again, I didn't go into this in extreme detail. Apparently, if you discover some meal that's never been discovered or something like that, I might be wrong about how I'm explaining this, but apparently it allows you to create a meal in your own name. That would be kind of neat. Have my recipe of my own meal in my own name that I can then just kind of like share and say, hey, are you a noob and don't want to like follow all these complicated recipes? Well, here's a simple one where you just add and subtract what you want, and it's mainly used for grinding your skill or something like that. And then they could just focus on the level of their farming skill and the ingredients that they need to get in order to make it more complicated or less complicated based on what they want, without having to fully go through the whole cooking system and understand what the hell it means. Because it's really, really daunting for a new user to come into the game and try and understand the new cooking system. As cool as it is, it's extremely complicated, at least from my point of view, for a new person to understand. Even for not so new people, like people like me who've been around for a while, just kind of getting into the whole cooking thing and trying to figure out how to create an affinity meal, to me is kind of a nightmare still, because I don't know, some other people may not think so and may have figured it out, but there's a couple of calculators online. One is like some random pizza maker, and another one kind of lets you pick and choose ingredients, but you have to keep fine-tuning that over several minutes, hours, until you find the right combination that comes out to what affinity you want based on your test meal. I would love to see a community calculator that's even better than those two. In other words, I want to be able to go into a calculator and say, this is what my test meal was, and here was the result. Okay, that's step one. We do that. Let's say piece of bear meat and a corn. And then, okay, here's what, when I taste the meal, this is what affinity it says it is. Okay, start from that starting point. And then, if I know that I have an FSB that has X number of materials in them that are, say, 100, ooh, I got a moment of inspiration, and I didn't get anything for it because I got damaged frying pan. That could have been a supreme frying pan right there had it procced. Anyway, yeah, that's just my luck. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, so I would love to be able to see a food calculator for worm, whereby you tell it, this is the affinity I got for my test meal, and now I have this FSB, and maybe I only have like, I don't know, 4 ingredients, let's just say, or, well, maybe that's unrealistic. Let's say I got 20 different ingredients, but 10 of those ingredients that I have in my FSB are 100 quality, and the rest aren't. So I don't want to use those other ones. I only want to use the ones that are 100 quality. Maybe the number has to be higher or lower, but just hear me out for a minute. So I want to be able to tell the calculator, use only these materials, and calculate me a possibility for achieving my affinity. In other words, if I tell you that I have 15 different materials on hand, can the calculator tell me this is the combination of those 15 ingredients that you have on hand that will give you the affinity you desire? Or it'll say you don't have enough different types of ingredients to give the desired result, and then it's like you're up shit creek and you have to like go get different materials to fill your FSB and try again. I don't know. But it would just seem more simple to me if you could go to a calculator, input what ingredients you have, and have the calculator figure out what combination is the combination based on the ingredients that you give it that can give you your desired affinity. That way there, I don't have to worry about mixing and matching ingredients for hours on end trying to figure out which combination works. It'll just auto-calculate all that for me. So maybe I have like potatoes and carrots and onions and different herbs and spices, and it should be smart enough to kind of figure out, you know, based on what I have on hand, can I create an affinity meal of a certain type, yes or no? That would be a much more useful calculator and would cut the time in half. So basically I go to the site, I tell it what ingredients I have on hand, and at the end of the day it gives me a printout or a list of a recipe that's going to work. And then I just go ahead, pick those ingredients out of my FSB because I know I already have them, pop them in my frying pan or whatever, and then I cook them and I get what I want. And I don't have to mess around for hours trying to figure out which combination is going to give me the right affinity. That would be awesome. That would take like 5 minutes instead of hours, you know? Me being lazy, of course. But anyway. Or even easier than that, which is what I do right now. I don't even bother with the cooking system. And I go to trade chat and I see so-and-so in trade chat who isn't on right now, but says, hey, I'm selling, you know, 90 quality or 99 quality full house pizzas, full 10 kilogram, any affinity you want. And just get them to send it to me for like 10 copper or 20 copper. And then I take the pizza and I throw it in my magic chest, and I have that meal without any decay indefinitely until it runs out. And that took me, what, 2 minutes. I mail the person, I tell them what affinity I want, they mail me back a meal, and I'm done. And I don't even need to worry about the cooking system at all. So, needless to say, this is what the cooking system has led to, from my point of view. All these people were trying to figure it out. A select few figured out how to do it, and are now selling en masse perfect meals to everybody. So everybody else is kind of like, why should I bother spending the time figuring out the whole cooking system now, when I could just buy meals that are already done for me and get them within like 1 minute by messaging the person and buying it off them for like, what, 10, 20 copper. You get that off killing a mob. I go out there today and farm some mobs, and I drop a rare drop and I get maybe like a 25 coin of copper, there's my full house pizza, 10 kilograms that's gonna last me for months, you know? So it doesn't really cost anything. It's free, technically, if you think about it that way. So, that's my lazy solution to getting affinity meals. So basically, all I really care about right now, the only reason that I care about cooking for my priest is for one reason only. It's to get the soul depth up. And I could care less about affinity meals or anything else because I'm just gonna buy those anyway. So, so all I'm trying to do now is based on the ingredients in my food storage bin, come up with a meal plan or a recipe of my own where I can add and remove ingredients to get my desired difficulty and just cook something super simple. Like, I don't need to go in my recipe book and figure out how to cook all this stuff. Like, oh, how do I make a sandwich? Well, oh, I need a plate. I need to make bread. Okay, I gotta figure out how to make bread. And then, oh, there's some eggs in here and all this cheese. And, oh, now I gotta get cows to get this cheese and blah, 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 blah. And then, oh, now I gotta, you know what I mean? Forget it. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do close cooking book. And I'm gonna buy a food storage bin off somebody with every single material that I need already in it, so I don't have to go get it. What is going on here? What did I do? I messed up. I clicked place by accident here. Okay, there we go. And then once I have them on my deed, I'll have hundreds of ingredients, you know, that I can just choose from to power level my soul depth by cooking or whatever I need to do. Now, I didn't have to do that, honestly. I could have just gone farming and done it the slow way. But let's face it, I didn't want to wait forever to get my farming skill up and stuff. I'm still going to do it, don't get me wrong, because I actually don't mind. I think it's worth having. Apparently, I think farming helps get your soul depth up as well. So that is a goal of mine. I'm going to definitely do farming on my I actually want my priest to be a farmer for a few reasons. Well, that's one reason, but the other reason is so that I could get high enough level crops that when I cut them with a knife, the crops turn to 100 quality. And the reason why is because then I can supply my own favor for my priest without having to buy, you know, already chopped veggies. Mind you, it's dirt cheap to get them anyway, but I could do it myself. In other words, instead of spending, you know, silver buying thousands of carrots, chopped carrots and chopped potatoes and chop whatever, so I could just feed my priest some favor to cast spells, I'll be able to just cut the veggies myself, because it's not that hard to do, and if you have decent tools, it's pretty quick to do it anyway. So don't get me wrong, it's still worth getting the skills up. There's still a reasoning behind it. So, I mean, if you like cooking, go ahead, go nuts, you know, enjoy the system. That's what it's there for. But if you're like me and you don't really care about all that stuff and you just kind of need cooking for a very specific reason, like in my case, to have my priest be a cook and be able to have higher soul depth, and to be a farmer because it kind of goes with cooking. You know, I'm just grouping similar skills for specific characters. So like, there's no point in my smith here, Neville, having, you know, farming and cooking skill, really. I mean, I don't really need it. I can make my priest do all that dirty work, right? And then I have a reason to play him too, right? Instead of having cooking on and farming on this character, I have to go on my priest to do it because he's the one with the higher skill. And it makes it kind of another reason to play the priest. If I get tired of casting on my priest, well, I'll go farm my fields. I'll go cook some meals. I don't know. Maybe I'll get my taming up on him too. I was actually thinking about that because cooking and taming kind of go together, because if you're spamming tons of meals to get soul depth, what are you going to do with those meals? You're gonna stick them in your larder, and then if they run out of snowballs, it's gonna decay, and all your meals will just disappear. It's just a waste. So why do that? Why not just create all the meals, store them in the larder, obviously with snow, and then try and get rid of those meals as quick as possible by using them for taming, and then you could get your taming skill up. You can start taming things like hell horses and um, um, to put gear on them, and you can tame unicorns, stuff like that, right? And breed them and whatnot. So lead them and breed them, right? So I mean, it is good to kind of group those skills together. So farming, cooking, taming, they all kind of go together. And that's what my priest is going to be. He's going to be the farmer, the cook, the tamer, the priest, the alchemist. All that stuff is going to be him. Um, and now, why do I want nature skill on my priest? Well, the main reason I want nature skill on my priest is because natural substances, sorry, on my priest is natural substances is actually really good for imbues, like it's creating imbues, and if you get like bloods and stuff like that from dragon fights or whatever, you can create imbues. The other thing you do too is when you apply imbue to people's um, um, weapons or tools or whatever, you know, it's a little bit better to do it with higher natural substances, apparently. Um, I don't know if that really matters or not anymore, but used to be anyway. Um, but you know, and another thing, you know, I believe alchemy is dyes as well. So like, you know, it's kind of all priestly kind of things, sorcerer kind of things to do, right? You're an alchemist. You create dyes. You mix potions. You cast spells. You farm, cook, and tame. It all kind of goes together. So again, I'm trying to group like-minded skills for my different characters, so that it makes kind of sense in the long run, right? And actually, my priest is also my woodcutter as well, because I had to do some wood cutting to get some basic stats before I went to and converted to a priest. So since I ended up getting my wood cutting to like 60, I believe it is, on my priest, it's higher than my main, so I can use him to cut higher quality logs than I can on my main right now. So I mean, it's nice to have, because he's staying a pow wheeler anyway, my long bottom. So my other pow wheeler, I don't know if they'll be able to still cut wood when they become Venora. I don't think they can, but I can't remember what the restrictions are on a Venora priest. But it doesn't really matter, because all those skills I grinded on long bottom, they didn't come with the priest account that I bought, which was the other one. So, you know, whoever created that original priest account didn't bother grinding all those extra little things that I did with my priest. So, I guess I'll get into the reason. Why did you buy an account? Why did you buy another priest if you already were working on your own? Well, the reason is very simple. So, I was already a high skilled crafter, but you can't make really much money selling blank tools. I mean, you can, but it's going to be negligible and hard to do. So instead, I said, well, what if I just get a priest that already has at least decent enough channeling and whatnot stats that I can do something useful with it and still, you know, level it and skill it up without having to break the bank. So I ended up getting this priest for less than most people pay for higher level priest accounts, and I ended up working on it a little bit. So it's sitting at 81 channeling now, I believe, or close to that, something like that. So still work in progress. I mean, you don't really see any huge change in success with priests until you reach like 90 plus channeling, so I have to work on getting it there, and I have to work on getting my other priest there, who's a long way away. I mean, the priest that I created is not up to that level yet. But I wanted a character that was capable of casting those spells now, like AOSP and BOTD and stuff like that, so that I could actually make a little bit of money with my skills, as opposed to having to wait a year to get a priest skilled up, or maybe longer than a year, depending how much playtime you have, to get a priest skilled up to the point where you can do that kind of thing. So originally I thought to myself, well, I'll just buy this account and use this account to cast my things until I get Longbottom caught up, and then once Longbottom catches up, I'll sell the other account and just keep Longbottom. Fast forward to today, and now the priest update is going to drop, and people will be able to choose to reroll priests for free. So now, because of that, I've actually changed my mind. So instead of selling that account now, I'm actually going to use it and convert it to a Venora priest, and then keep my Powheeler, because in the priest update, a Powheeler is actually a demigod of Venora. So they kind of go hand in hand. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is the case. I'm pretty sure that demigods and gods will be able to link with one another. So my Powheeler should be able to link with a Venora priest, but maybe not link with a foe priest, for instance, because my god is technically a demigod of Venora. So that's kind of why I want to keep one as Venora and one as Powheeler. The other reason why is because I'll have good spell coverage. So I'll have AOSP, Web Armor, BOTD, COC, WOA, like I'll have a really good coverage of all the different kinds of spells. And then I don't have to be, oh, can you put COC on this? Oh no, sorry, I can't because I only have BOTD. No, I'll have all three. So if they want COC and WOA, I'll say, well, do you want BOTD instead? It's one cast, and I don't have to charge you as much maybe for that cast as I would for separate casts of COC and WOA. So anyway, that's sort of the plan, and it's sort of changed, but I would like to still continue, obviously, leveling my own priest up and getting him um, up to snuff, because I started him from scratch and I made sure that I had all of his basic stats properly set up before I even priested the character. Because I'll explain quickly what that means. So let's say you created a priest and you didn't grind any skills up. You're not going to be able to do certain things like load crates into carts, and like ride horses and things like that, and sail ships and stuff. So you need to work on getting some basic stats for your character before you priest, because once you turn into a priest, it's much longer. It takes forever actually to get those skills up once you've become a priest, because it slows down all your skill gains and stuff. So you definitely want to do the proper research and prep your priest with the skills that you want to have before you turn your character into a priest. So that's what I did with Longbottom. I can tell that when I bought the other account, I can tell that the other account isn't as good as far as the basic sort of stats that I would have personally chosen to grind up before becoming a priest. But it's already high level, and I don't really do anything with it anyway other than cast. That's it. That's all I do with it. So my other priest is more multifunctional, though. The one that I created has a purpose. It's not just sitting there casting. It's going to be a farmer. It's going to be taming. It's going to be cooking. It's going to be doing all of those things. Alchemy, right? It was really meant to be a second character that I actually take the time and invest in it and make and play with it, and not just sit there and cast stuff with. It's actually useful in other ways. And that's why I still kind of consider that as my main priest, even though it's not up to the level of the other one yet. Um, but again, because of the priest update, it kind of changed my plans. So it'll be nice to have both. Mind you, I have to pay for premium for an extra account, but I don't have to pay for it every month if I don't want to. But it's not that bad, I guess. It's not like I go out to bars drinking or anything like that. So what else am I going to spend my entertainment money on, right? This is it. So I don't mind spending a little bit of money on it, on this game. And it's good for the developers and the game itself, right? For them to be pulling in some income and stuff and continuing to come out with good updates for the game. And I have to say that over the past years that I've played, this past year has been the most active in terms of updates and features getting rolled out, and the dev team is doing a stellar job right now, and they have a great thing going on. So I definitely applaud them for that. Anybody who kind of like got tired of the game and kind of quit the game about a year ago have missed out on a lot of changes to the game. Like, a lot. I can't even begin to describe. But if those players came back, they'd have a lot more to do and a lot of different things compared to before. So, the game's always improving. I don't know. For me, I never personally get bored of this game. I can play this forever. I don't though. Usually from like spring to fall, I'll take a break and do other things because, it's nice weather, right? It's not winter time and snow on the ground, so I don't really want to stay inside on the computer all the time. But it's also good in the sense that I don't really get bored of the game either. I don't burn myself out. And that's another thing. I know some people, they grind skills, but they grind way more excessively than I do. And they get burnt out and they quit the game and they sell their accounts, and it's kind of a waste. It's not a race. It's not like, you must have played other MMOs where it's like, it's always the same old thing. You get to endgame, you get the best gear, you defeat all the biggest bosses, you complete all the achievements, you beat all the endgame raids, and then what do? You sit there and you're bored and you don't want to play that game anymore, and then you stop playing, and it's sayonara to everybody you knew in that game and you move on to something else, unless they stick with you and happen to play the other game that you play or whatever and move along with you. But a lot of the times that doesn't happen. So rather than go crazy grinding myself to death and getting bored of the game, I don't do that. I'm kind of like, I'll call myself a casual grinder. I'll grind the skills that I find are fun and that I really, really enjoy, like smithing in my case is what I really enjoy. So I am working on getting all of my smithing skills up. Like my blacksmithing is 95, my platesmithing is 93. Those are the first two biggest skills I've ever worked on in Worm that I've gotten that high. So I have other skills that are getting higher, like mining is 75, masonry is 74, carpentry is 66 now, digging is 71, like stuff like that, right? I have other skills, but smithing is definitely my main source of fun. I know it's sitting in front of a forge and doing this kind of stuff, but to me it's fun. I was just at Lunalong actually. Today is the last day for Lunalong, and Lunalong is basically an Impalong event. For those of you who may not know, an Impalong is basically a huge event where a whole bunch of people go there and they create weapons and armor and tools and stuff, and people sit there and grind their skills up and by imping or improving everything. And priests work on their channeling by channeling people's gear and stuff like that. So going to an Impelong is a good opportunity to gain skill in some of the areas that you want to gain skill in, but it's also very good for getting items that you want to get relatively for free. So instead of paying for a tool and then paying for somebody to enchant that tool, you can go to an Impelong event and get it all done basically for free. And you may not get the highest quality tool and the highest quality casts, but if you're somewhat of a new player or medium level player, you'll probably appreciate that you're getting stuff for free that's better than your current tool set, or better than your current armor, or better than your current weapons, or whatever. For me, I'm a higher level crafter, so I was actually at the event. I think I was probably the highest blacksmith, or at least one of the highest there, and the highest platesmith there. So I actually improved a lot of people's tools up to 85 quality. I managed to improve some rares. I actually rared 2 items for somebody. They got lucky and they got a rare, and one other guy got a rare. And I improved those rares up to 90 quality. And then upstairs I had my priests, both my priests there, because my one priest needs to get his faith up to 100. So we were doing sermons at the Impelong event. I think I got my priest up to like 83 faith now. My other one was already 100, but my long bottom, he needed to get up some more. So he's up to 83 now. And I was casting AOSP on people's armor and BOTD on some tools, and I did some weapon casts as well, like life transfer and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's one of the spells that I think we're losing in the priest update as Power Wheeler. We're not going to have life transfer anymore, but I think it's only going to be a full spell. So they're reverting back to what it used to be, I believe, where only foe had that spell. I think this goes back to, and again, I'm not 100% sure on everything I say, but I'm pretty sure there was some complaining a while back, a long time ago, when they came out with the new priest religions. People were upset that foe's life transfer spell, which is what was the big money maker with foe, I guess, for priests, or one of their main spells that everybody went to them for, was now being taken away from them and given to everybody else. Well, now it seems to be going back into the hands of foe-only priests. So I guess maybe they realized that, hey, this was an unpopular change, and maybe too many people stopped being foe priests and they want to bring it back to life. I don't know. But anyway, it's no big deal. I mean, I could live without it. I don't mind sending my weapon somewhere to get that done if need be. I don't really care. Like, I care more about the spells that deal with tools and armor. That's kind of more of what I care about. I'll still have some weapon-based spells that I can cast anyway, but and I could still advertise those if I want to sell some enchants down the road or whatever. When my channeling is better, and I can do it more reliably. But mainly it's just for myself, because like I can create my own tools and stuff, and if I get my weaponsmithing up, I'll be able to do the same thing. So I'll be able to create my own stuff, enchant my own stuff, and sell my own stuff without relying on anybody to do it, or partnering up with anybody. I'll be self-reliant, and that's kind of my goal. Kind of like Factional Fight talked about before, they want to make their characters sort of self-sufficient, and that's kind of my goal with this. I want to have a priest and a smith that can do it all, like I want to be able to smith armor, tools, and weapons, do it all, and then have a priest that can enchant all of that stuff in any way that I need it to. So that's kind of my goal, be able to do all of those things. It takes a lot of work to get to there, but that's okay. That's part of the fun, part of the journey. So we're getting close to 90 quality now on these rare frying pans. Um, I don't know if I've been slacking while I've been talking, because sometimes I could talk and not pay attention to crafting. But I think we're getting there. What else did I want to say? What else can we talk about in the interim? Well, we're almost done. I gotta give you guys a tour of my deed, I guess, since this is my first episode. I'll try and find something for every episode to talk about. I guess it kind of depends what's on my mind at that particular time. I don't really have anybody to talk to fire questions back and forth. That's one of the reasons why I guess Factional Fights stream is so interesting, because it's two of them talking and they're able to fire questions back and forth with each other and think about future features of the game and stuff like that. There's other things I probably should do for this stream, like get some kind of a chat thing set up so I could see who's chatting while I'm in the game and doing stuff, and then have that overlay appear on my stream. I don't have a camera so you can see my face, but I guess that's not super important, but I don't know, maybe it is for some people. So just beware that even though you may be watching my stream, I'm not actually looking at the channel to see who's chatting or anything like that, but I could always check that after it's over, I guess. And maybe you guys can suggest some good add-ons for streaming Worm that allow me to see the chat and all of that. Like, I guess everybody has different add-ons that they use, but I don't know anything about that stuff yet. If I just get pointed to the right websites to find out what to do, then that's not a problem. I could figure it out. I just don't know what is the best thing to get for these overlays and things. And I'm assuming they're extensions to OBS, the broadcasting software that you have to download and install, and configure. But the main thing for me today was just to get a stream quality that is good, and get audio that sounds decent. And hopefully when I go back and review the stream, it'll be consistent all the way through without any lag or distortion or things cutting in and out. Hopefully it'll be just nice and smooth. And then I don't have to worry. I have a pretty fast internet connection and I have a fast computer, so it shouldn't be a problem. I wonder if we're getting some skill here. Yeah, we're getting some skill on blacksmithing. A little bit at a time. 95.33 blacksmithing now. By the way, if anybody wants any improvements on their tools or whatever, and they could be imped with blacksmithing, or if you have a request to imp a plate set, you can always message me in game on Xanadu, and I can see what I can work out with it as far as getting the work done and getting a fair price worked out. I don't usually advertise, just because I've been kind of busy just kind of doing my own thing and skill grinding, so not focused on really making silver in the game. I used to have a shop page, which technically is still up on the forum, it just hasn't been updated in a long time. I used to advertise it from time to time, and people would come to me and pay for my services to improve their stuff. But I'm much higher now than I was when I created that, so my skills improved quite a bit, at least in the blacksmithing department. In plate it's gotten up a little bit higher, but Another big thing too is when I was doing that shop page, they only had plate with steel at the time. They didn't have like iron plate and all that kind of stuff yet, which now makes it super easy. I mean, now I don't have to worry as much about having a steel supply to imp people's stuff with, because people come to me with iron plate and other stuff now, not just steel. So I guess that's one good thing about it. But, you know, the plate market's been not very productive for a long time. Even after the changes, I mean, nobody's really paying money for plate sets anymore by the looks of it. So that's why I don't bother. I only kind of do it by request. People that know I'm a 93 platesmith will be like, oh, hey, I got a plate. I use plate. Can you imp it for me? I'm like, okay. But I don't go out of my way to kind of advertise it anymore. Actually, one way that I made a lot of money, and I think I mentioned it earlier in the stream, was when I used to create horseshoes. Last year around spring, summer, I partnered up with a priest who had 95 plus channeling, and he and I were splitting 50-50 on horseshoe sets. So I'd make a set of 90 quality horseshoes, send it over to him. He would enchant them, send it back to me. I would sell the set, and then we'd split the profit. So he was content with that deal, and so was I, because we each made a good amount of money. And last year, for some reason, people were buying horseshoes left and right and center, and people were paying between 6 to 8 silver a set. Now those sets are probably 4 silver if you're lucky for a non-rare set that's high enchanted, high quality. So the market's changed quite a bit, but back when it was actually good last year, we ended up probably netting over 2 gold just selling horseshoes. And it's because of that nice little temporary niche in the market and that little business opportunity, I guess you could call it, in Worm for me, that ended up in me making enough money that I was able to buy all the rare tools that I could ever want. So yeah, you can see I have a pretty good collection now of rare tools. Hatchet, pickaxe, saw, shovel, awl, hammer, leather knife, mallet, needle, small anvil, stone chisel, whetstone. All of my blacksmithing items are actually high level enchanted, runed, and imbued. So like I actually spent the time and money to get imbue on everything. So like my hammer has armor smithing imbue of 100, blacksmithing imbue of 46, the rune on it, the weapon smithing imbue of 100. So I'm still actually working on getting more blacksmithing pots to max out all of my tools to 100 blacksmithing, because I did armor smithing and weapon smithing, but I didn't do all of the blacksmithing imbues on my tools yet, which at this point, to be honest, could really help, just because I'm higher. That's my highest skill right now, and yet I don't have that imbue on all of my tools to 100 yet. So it's something I definitely need to do at some point, prioritize that and get that done. But it's getting there little by little. I only need half the pots now to get this done, I think. I don't know what this one's at. This one's at 20, yeah. See, so I still need quite a few blacksmithing pots to get these all imbued, but I will eventually. It's the same with my priest. I actually spent the time. Actually, this hatchet's supposed to be on my priest, but because he's the woodcutter. But my priest has some rare cooking tools because he's a cook, right? So all the cooking tools, I don't bother with that on Neville because he's not a cook. It's on my priest. So my priest is the one that has the rare cooking tools. So I'm still going to be building up his rare tool set. There's more cooking tools that I need to get that that aren't rare, but not that many. It should be fairly quick and easy to get those and not too expensive, hopefully. But I need to make more silver if I'm gonna do that. So we are approaching 90 quality now on these tools, on these frying pans. I've never actually tried to push too much higher than 90, even though I'm 95, so I'm interested. I'm almost tempted to see how high I can push these frying pans. I suppose I'll push them at the very least to 91, which is about a point above my hot food cooking skills, so I'll at least push them to 91. Shouldn't take that long to do. When I was at Lunalong, I ended up doing a lot. I did like over 20 plate items. I probably did the same amount or more in tools for people. And then that's not including all the enchanting and stuff that I did. And keeping up with the sermon queue and all that kind of stuff. So I was actually multitasking. So I had 3 of these windows on my monitor. Each worm client it's set up in each corner, and then Discord was in the 4th corner. So my whole screen had 4 screens on it, 3 clients and 1 chat client, and I had all of them running at the same time. My PC, I have an 8-core processor and SLI GTX 970 video cards, so I had no problem running all 3 clients with max settings, and in those smaller sort of windows. It was a little bit cluttered, a little bit compressed, but it was big enough. Each window was big enough that I was able to get what I needed to get done. So, oh, and I used the wagoner for the first time the other day to get a delivery. So this guy was selling 6,000 mortar for, I think he wanted like 10 silver, which is really, really good actually. That's like 1.5, 1.6 silver per 1,000 mortar. Usually mortar sells for 2.5 silver per 1k mortar. So I saved a lot of money actually buying that mortar in bulk. I need to do the same for bricks. I need to get a bunch of bricks for my deed because I need to finish my castle, and there's other stuff I want to build, but I need to get different kinds of bricks, not just regular bricks. I need regular bricks for my castle, but like I want to build a church on my deed so that I can put all the altars in it for priests and stuff. So I want to build that out of marble. So I'm gonna need a lot of marble bricks for that. And again, because I'm one person and I want to focus on grinding certain skills, I don't want to be sitting there having to spam mortar and spam bricks all day because I'm busy doing other things and I don't have anybody here at this deed helping me because I'm solo, I'm alone here. So there is one other couple that plays the game, and they became citizens of my deed, but they haven't been back on to play since the spring, I believe, which was kind of like when I left for a while, right? Because I usually don't play from spring to fall. I usually play in the winter most of the time. I mean, I do play, but I play in the winter most of the time. So they haven't yet come back to the game for whatever reasons that they have. So, but they had started to build a little house made out of sandstone. I gave them a spot where they could build, and then I told them if they want, they could build a road and connect up to my roads and stuff. But since they haven't been on, you know, a lot of changes have happened to the game, and the highway system came into the game, and I actually spent the time connecting my deed to the highway system. So you can find Applebrooke Ridge, which is the name of my deed, Applebrooke Ridge. You can find that on the highway system on Xanadu now. If you ever need to travel and you need to find me. Oh, looks like I gotta throw this back in to be heated up. Okay, well, that lump has to heat up a little bit. I guess I'll just wait a little bit. We're almost done sitting in front of the forge here. For you who are just watching the flames go by and the time go by. If anybody's actually watching, I don't know. But I'm assuming people are gonna watch this video at some point. Or at least someone will. It is a rare forge, which is why it glows. I actually would like to improve it to the 7 or 80 quality, but I tried doing that the other day with my 70, I think it's 74.7 masonry, and there's just a little bit to go to hit 80, but it was like the hardest thing to go up, just like a little bit of points. So I have to get my masonry higher before I can actually push it that last little bit to 80, unfortunately. Oh, I went and clicked that by accident again. So it's sitting just below 80 quality, this forge, 79.53, so I'll be happy one day when it actually says 80. But I heard the best way to grind masonry is to make those grindstones. I haven't actually tried doing that. I guess it would be pretty quick, just create and improve grindstones until I hit like 80 masonry. I'd be happy probably stopping at 80 masonry for a while. I don't really see a need right now anyway to push it past that. But I'd be content if I got it up to 80. One thing I had a thought about was, you know how carpentry restricts the size of building you can create? I always felt that was a little bit odd. I said to myself, well, let's say I'm building a stone building and it's just made out of stone. Why can't my masonry skill dictate how big that building can be? Why do I have to level carpentry up just to be able to make a very large stone building? So I felt the logic was a little flawed maybe in that regard, in the sense that, but then again, on the other hand, you could say, well, technically you could build buildings that are made out of both wood and stone. And I get that, but maybe there's a way to, I guess, and then I thought to myself, well, if you start the building in stone, maybe that's what gives you the ability to have masonry dictate how big the building is. But then I thought, well, maybe that would become an exploit in a sense, because then you could start the bottom of the building as raw as stone bricks or something, and it uses your masonry skill to plan out that building. And the first floor has to maybe be stone, but then the rest could be built out of wood, and then it bypasses the requirement to have high carpentry. So I guess it kind of wouldn't work out, but I always thought that was weird. I don't know, maybe there's a way they could figure out how to change it, but I just found it odd as like, well, my masonry skill is high, so why do I need high carpentry to make a huge stone building? Because you need carpentry skill. So then I had no choice. I had to actually spend time getting carpentry up, which I've done a long time ago, and it's up to 66, but it's mediocre, right? It's 66. It's not very high. I mean, I have to actually spend time doing, you know, fine carpentry now to get my carpentry up to 70 plus or whatever. And then, unless there's a better way, I don't know, but and again, the only reason why I have to do that is just to be able to build larger buildings, when my goal to begin with was to create stone building, and I didn't even need carpentry to do that. So it's like, I don't know. It's a little odd. It's like now I have to grind carpentry and fine carpentry just to be able to build a large masonry building or stone building. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but you get what I mean. Instead of grinding one skill to be able to build a stone building, a big stone building, I have to grind 3 skills now. Uh, Actually, more than that, because now that I think about it, there's paving that comes into play. So now you want to be able to make your floors to make a building that's X number of floors high and be able to make stone floors, I guess, or whatever it is, and then you need paving. Paving comes into play. So that's yet another skill that you need. I guess it's not a huge deal though. I mean, maybe that's the way they designed it. Maybe they wanted you to have to grind multiple skills to be able to create, you know, large enough buildings and have enough floors and be able to build floors on every floor and whatever. Maybe that was the goal. Maybe they always thought of making buildings as a multi-skill sort of adventure. So I guess in that regard, we have to just live with it and be happy with the way it is. But it was a little confusing when I first started, and I was like, well, I have masonry. Why can't I build a big stone building? Oh, you need carpentry to do that. Oh, and then I had to start doing that. So as a noob, it was a little bit overwhelming at first. I was very happy once I was able to build stone buildings. I was like, yes, I could build stone buildings. But now I have a mix, right? I have stone and wood mixed together, and like stone and wood here, right? And that one's just wood, and then the castle is just all stone, and unfortunately, here's the other unfortunate part. So I built all these buildings before the new wall types came out. So now you have some deeds that have all the old wall types, and they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna like rebuild 4,000 bricks worth of a building just to change the wall type to a new wall type because it looks better. Although in the back of your mind, it's gonna bug you every single day. But my castle could have looked better if I had sandstone bricks and or slate bricks instead of, you know, stone walls. But now your only option is to destroy those walls and redo them. And that's like I said, if you're doing a whole castle, that's 4,000 plus bricks. And that's for a small castle. So, yeah, it's kind of like, oh well, just build new buildings and worry about it then. See, my approach wasn't so bad. So when I came here, I said my approach is going to be this. I'm going to look up medieval buildings, like real life medieval buildings, like that, and their layout and stuff like that. And I'm going to decide on a different design for each building. And if that design mixes stone and wood, then so be it. If it, you know, has a different roof type, then so be it. If it uses bridges or not, then so be it. So, like for ramps and stuff like that. So because I've already started building in a diverse kind of way, I kind of looked at the new wall types as well. I'll just use the new wall types for some of the newer buildings that I create. So like for my church, I'll make that all marble. For maybe another building, I'll use like slate, and maybe another one I'll use like sandstone. So in that sense, my deed at the end of the day won't look like an old wall type deed where every building is just all built with all the old wall types. And that's kind of like the benefit of the fact that when I came here, I said to myself, I'm not gonna build the whole deed right away. I'm gonna take my sweet time building it. And I'm kind of glad in the end that I did that, because had I not done that, the new wall types would have come out and I would have already had built all my buildings on my deed, and I would have been like, well, there's now my whole deed just kind of looks like the old wall type deed. But I didn't have to worry about that, because when I came here I made a few buildings and I kind of built buildings a little bit at a time, and I made each one different, and I've been focusing more on grinding my skills and not building so much around the deed. I mean, some people, they have a deed, it's just a pile of junk sitting on the ground and they're busy just uh, leveling their skills and not worrying about building their deed at all. Um, so there's a benefit to not rushing the build of your deed when you create one. The other benefit is this, and I'll explain another perspective. So my previous deed, I used the deed planner and I planned it all out, right? And I said, oh, that looks good, blah, 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 whatever, at the time. And then I built everything. And then I stepped back in the virtual world and looked at my buildings down the road. I was looking down the road and I was looking at my buildings on the left side of the road and my buildings on the right side of the road. And I was unhappy. And I said, why am I unhappy? I'm unhappy because everything that I created was so planned and designed in Deed Planner. Everything was already so perfect that it looked like it had no character. It looked like, like one of those housing complexes where it's like you turn down this road and every house is a cookie cutter house and they all have the same size yard and they all look the same. That's the feeling I got when I looked down the road of my deed and saw that all the buildings, even though they were for different purposes and had different stuff inside of them, all kind of looked the same. And it really bothered me. And ultimately, it was a huge factor in me deciding to leave the deed and come here. Because it kind of made me disappointed to the point where I almost didn't feel like playing the game anymore because of it. Just because I got disappointed that my deed didn't give me the feeling I was looking for. The, the feeling of, hey, this is home. Hey, I actually like the design I came up with. Hey, I actually enjoy looking at this deed because it's unique or it has a certain charm to it or whatever. And it bothered me immensely. So, needless to say, when I came in to my new deed area and I decided to deed here, I said, I'm not going to plan everything in advance. I'm just going to wing it. And I'm going to build it as I go and shape it in my mind as I go, instead of just cookie cuttering the whole thing and then building it and coming out at the end being unsatisfied with the fact that it became just like another cookie cutter type village or whatever. So I said to myself this time around when I build a building, I'm going to look up, hey, what does a cookery look like in the medieval times? What does I don't know, another type of building look like? What did each castle have back then that, like, what were the different kinds of rooms in the castle and what did they look like? And, I'm actually doing all these little extra little bits of research to plan each building to have its own sort of charm. And it's not quite the same as pushing out a cookie cutter build in Deed Planner because I'm not actually planning it out with Deed Planner at all. I'm just looking at pictures and reading about the history of medieval times and stuff like that online to get ideas on what I might want my buildings to look like and what contents I might want to put in them. And I'm not 100% satisfied with the contents that I have in my buildings now. Not yet anyway, but I have ideas and I'm gonna keep working on that. And, it's kind of like being an interior decorator in a sense. It's like, instead of just having a deed with a bunch of buildings that are just, each room is just an empty room, or it has some stuff in it, but it doesn't really have any charm. It doesn't really have a purpose. It's kind of just, you go in and it's like, it's a room with brick walls. The castle looks really cool on the outside, but yeah, it really has no purpose. It really has no use, no... when you walk into it, it's not like I'm walking into a museum and seeing some cool things. It's just kind of there, and it's just walls and a room, and nothing spectacular about it. So I don't want that to happen, so I actually want to spend some time decorating them and stuff like that. Um, if they're not gonna have a use, then at least it could look good and have some functional things in them, like some furniture and stuff like that. I don't know. Because now you can actually use the furniture, you can sit on it and stuff like that. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it's actually better than four walls with nothing in it, or like a boring castle that's just there and you don't really have much to it. Um, Even my castle right now is not quite where I want it to be because, like I said, it's just a big space right now, and it's not really where I need it to be. But I'll get there eventually anyway. Um, Castle's sort of work in progress. Um, okay, so we're nearing. I'm just gonna put the final touch on these two pans, and I'm gonna stop at 91 because otherwise we'll be doing this all night. Um, See, I'm 95 skill, and look how much time it takes to push these things. It still takes some time, right? Um, Even with imbue, and I have imbue on my tools, and all of them are rare, and it doesn't matter. It still takes some time to do these things, right? So you can appreciate the effort involved when somebody says, imp my tool to 90, and then you have like 10 requests from people to do the same thing. It's like, well, there goes another night. I'm gonna be imping all night. So here we go. So we got two 91 quality rare frying pans now. I could have pushed them higher, but I don't want to right now. I only really need them to be higher than my HFC right now anyway. Okay, so they're in my oven now. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is give you guys a quick little tour of the deed. Oh, it's foggy out right now. Oh. Where is it? Where's my rope? Here we go. Rope. Ride. Here's a larder. Okay, anyway, I'll get to the contents of each building after, and like I said, it's not set in stone. Okay, so when I first came here, I'm going to show you the scale of this. I'm just going to go all the way to the bottom, and we'll start there as though we were first arriving on the property, and I'll show you what you can sort of imagine what I was looking at at the time when I first came here, alright? So first of all, nothing existed. Let's just keep that in mind. It was a big ass, sorry for the swearing, but it was a big mountain. It was just a tundra mountain, and none of that existed there. And it was Tundra Mountain, and it went up to that peak over there by Valray. Peak of Tundra Mountain, I like to call it. It's not a mountain as in those huge mountain peaks over there in the distance. It's a little foggy right now, but you could see them. It's more like a hill than a mountain, but a mountain nonetheless. So there was no flat structure to build on. It was a slope. And there was an old deed that existed on the left-hand side, which is why there's some terraformed area over there with like a mine, open pit mine. Nothing really interesting in there either. Just like there was like one iron vein in there, big whoopee. You kind of useless. So I didn't even bother mining it out in there or anything. Yeah. So I came here, and this little piece of land here was just part of the hill and wasn't all nice like this now. Um, so needless to say, I dropped a ton of dirt to make that platform up there. You're talking thousands, probably 20, 30, maybe even 40,000 dirt. But you know what? Some people actually have to flat raise and mine rock in order to shape their deed. I didn't have to mine rock. I said, you know what? I could dig down to rock and have to do all of that. Or I can do the alternate thing, which is forget about mining rock or flat raising or whatever you want to call it altogether. I'm just going to do it the very easy way. Drop dirt, make a platform, and flatten it out. So that's what I ended up doing. And I found that was my approach. That's rather than mining it out and mining out into into the side of the mountain and making a platform that way. Uncovering all the rock and having to mine it down and all that. I didn't do that. Um, so I did all the dirt. I did the first platform, and then eventually I said, well, going up and down these slopes is annoying because every slope is a different, um, like here I'll highlight my shell. Every slope has a different slope. Like this is 20 slope, so it's easy, right? But when you go up the mountain cliff there, getting up and down the mountain to get to my boat was kind of a pain because you were hitting parts of the cliff that your horse wouldn't go down and you had to go around it and you had to keep moving all around. I said, forget it. This place needs a road. So I built this road. The road to my right didn't exist. There was a deed here called Upanax Harbor. It doesn't exist anymore. It disbanded and now believe Wargasm put up this JK Assembly embassy building or whatever, but I don't know if that's deeded or undeeded or whatever, but there used to be a deed there, and they had one little strip of road here that ended somewhere, and then eventually I widened it to 2 tiles wide, and I'm pushing it all around the other edge because I'm gonna eventually connect it all up to the highway system, um, but it's not connected right now. Um, I'm actually connected to the highway system from the rear of my deed because somebody decided to create a highway up there uh, to the northeast of my deed. And so it was faster just to connect to the highway there rather than going all the way down this way and having to connect up to the other road and then having to make that road a 2 tile road to meet up with the highway and then put all the cat's eyes down all the way up to there. I said forget it. It'll be faster the other way. So I did it the other way instead and I just made this a normal road. I'm still going to connect this to the other road, but and in that sense it's going to be sort of connected to the highway system, but it just won't have cat's eyes and stuff on it because that piece of highway is already sort of done. And it doesn't really make sense to have it coming out here. I mean, if somebody else wants to do that, they can go ahead and do it. I'll lay the groundwork for connecting those roads up. Like the roads will be connected, but they'll have to widen it and or change it to the proper road type and put like the proper stone type that matches the rest of the highway and put cat's eyes down and whatever. I'll leave that to somebody else. But my contribution is at least making this whole portion here, you know, 2 tiled all the way down past where Upanax used to be and heading up the road around the land that's over here. I haven't quite finished it yet, and you'll see what I mean. I'll head over this way. This is that JK Embassy building that somebody built here. I don't think this is deeded though. Yeah, see a patch of grass. Lands of Worm. Yeah, this is non-deeded property. It's just a managed building. So anyway, come this way, and I added all this recently, so I made this part 2 tile. It's 2 tile all the way that way. If you put cat's eyes down, it's already done, right? Um, and then it comes back down to 1 lane here. So from this part forward, I have to 2 lane the rest of it and make it go all the way around all of this and connect it up to this road right here. And this road, there's a clay hill here to get clay from, but this is a single tiled road that connects to the highway road up the hill. And this would all have to be 2 laned in order to become part of the highway system and have cat's eyes added to it and stuff. And I think there's still an active deed on the left hand side over there. So, like I said, I'm gonna at least connect this road together, but that's where I'm gonna stop. And if somebody wants to do the rest, they can. But it doesn't affect me. I'm already connected to the highway system on my road. So I'm not gonna do the rest because there's not really any point right now. Another deed might come along and decide they want to do a like deed here and do that, or maybe somebody will deed here one day and want to do that, but I'll leave that up to them. At least I'll get the road connected. That way you can go around the front and still make it to the road and not have to go about around all these hills and stuff. It would be just quick and easy around the road. Um, and I think, okay, so there's a deed to my left. You can't see it from here because it's all the way around that piece of land further down the way. But he had started building a road on the side of that shoreline as well, and he stopped. So I might actually one day go over there and get that road going all the way around the shoreline up to my road here and connect all of this together with where my boats are now. Um, I should probably build a proper harbor down here for the boats, but this is my sort of temporary, quick and dirty harbor. Just a piece of land where I could park my boats for now. They are parked off deed. The only problem with that is the boats take decay damage sitting down there for long periods of time. So actually, I don't care if the sailboats take a little bit of damage, but I'm starting to care about my Nars taking damage. So I've built some ship transporters and I've transported my Nar. I'm actually going to sell the Nar that's down there now because I bought a new Nar that's higher quality and it's got a different rune on it, the 10% wind rune, and um, so that's replacing my older Nar that's of lesser quality and not as fast. So I'm gonna sell my Nar that's down there now and replace it with my new Nar. Um, and then so this is the top portion of my deed here. So I put my merchant here with all of my stuff that I want to store on him because I use him for storage. Um, You know, if you have rares you want to store and you don't want them to take any decay damage, then you put them on a merchant. So I have some things that I keep on him. I use him for storage. Um, so this is my smith building. Um, kind of like a mini workshop. There's like my forge, my main forge is here. I have some crates inside there and some other stuff. Um, in here I've got some armor racks, tool chest, things like that. Like I said, the contents don't 100% match what this building was labeled as per se yet. I might like, make this a little more authentic, like putting the right items in there, but whatever. Anyway, it is what it is for now. The building design is pretty cool, I think. You know, it's kind of like a unique looking building. And then come up here. I actually have some high quality plate in here and a bed, an extra bed. Because I have 3 characters, so they each need a bed. But I have my high quality steel up here, and there's a little trapdoor to the top there. um, the nice thing about these bridges is you can go up and down really easy, so that's kind of nice. It's my first little bridge. I don't have bridges here yet. That was my first one. So you can tell I haven't built it. I'm building an obelisk as well. Um, anyway, just give me a few minutes. I just got to take a quick break here and I'll be right back with you. So just bear with me with this delay in the stream, but I'll just give you a little look at the rest of the deed here while I go do what I need to do real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, I had to plug in my headset as well because that was dying on me. Okay, so yeah, so we've taken a look at the one building I made, and then I made another building over here. It's got my smelters and another rare forge there. For if somebody else is smithing, they can use the other forge, or if I'm smelting stuff. And then in here, I got all my ores from 10 quality right up to 100 quality. This is where I store all of my ores, which is why I kind of call it the smelter building. I come out of the mine and then I smelt the stuff and then I throw it all in these BSBs. And I have some stairs going upstairs here. Just some furniture in here, you know, some bookcases and stuff. I'll have to figure out what else I could throw up here at some point, but like I said, the interior design of these is just kind of temporary for now until I decide what I want to do in the future. I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about all of that. But that's another sort of building design there. And then I have my mine up here. It's a fairly large mine. What I've actually done is this. This is kind of an idea that I had. So you could see the edges of the mountain running all along there. And that runs all the way around, right? And I thought to myself, you know, well, what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna mine all the borders until I hit dirt. And when I hit dirt, I know that I'm hitting the exterior border of the mountain on the opposite side, on the outside of it. So I just reinforced all of those walls, and I'm following the edge of the mountain all the way down. And now there's some nodes that have respawned here that I'll have to get rid of. But anyway, I'm following the edge of the mountain all the way down, and then from that point, I just go down my tunnels and I start making tunnels. So I've started, like this is still kind of messy. I'm not satisfied with all of this yet, but the point is I'm gonna have some straight tunnels when I have this looking properly. And I'm gonna have some tunnels every so often that go further in, and then I'll be able to find some more veins. So like over here I found some veins, and then over here I found a vein. So I've been reinforcing the floors and putting a light wherever I find a vein, kind of thing. That way the lanterns that I put there stay lit. Now, of course, I don't have one there, but I'll have to get one. And I've been finding more new ones, so like another more rock salt here. And I've been mining out this way, making this long tunnel, and there's another vein. So I'm starting to expand this mine, and you know, eventually it's going to be nice and neat with predictable tunnels as to running north and south, east and west. Just nice tunnels, evenly spaced apart once I get things sorted out. Of course, whenever you find veins, sometimes that throws your plans off a little bit, so I'll try and make it as consistent as I can, but you know, you find the random vein here and there, like here's a silver vein. Um, Again, I've marked it. I've marked, you know, what quality it is. I have a light, you know, that way there I always know if I go towards a red light, well, there's a vein there, right? So, needless to say, I need to add more lights inside my mine here. But here's a utmost quality sandstone, and here's a lead vein, and stuff like that. So actually, all of this was all rocks. I started mining all of this out, and you know, exposing all of these veins, like mining around each of these veins and just exposing them. And I thought to myself, we can build inside of mines now, so maybe one day what I will do is start raising the ceilings and like, you know, make it look a little better. Maybe, you know, I could start building inside here too, right? You could start creating buildings inside here and stuff. But that's a long ways into the future, I think. But nonetheless, I'm setting up the the area for it anyway. On my deeded property only goes so far into the mine, but that's a good start to my mine. It kind of goes right into the mountain, and this mountain's actually pretty big. It goes far on each side, so and even if I ran out, which could take forever, but if I ran out in this mountain, I could always go up to that mountain over there, which is massive. Call it Humpback Mountain because it looks like, or Camelback Mountain because it looks like a camel's back, or humpback, or whatever you want to call it. I have my fountain here, you know, with some decoration. Got that Dragon Hoda statue. I use this to store all my meals. So inside here I have a magical chest, and inside the magical chest I have all my affinity meals and everything in here. And they never decay as a result of that, which is nice, and it keeps the meals warm. And of course I have my cook building, and I have, you know, some some barrels here with like pine nut oil and milk and sap and stuff. I also keep my dyes in here because, well, why not, right? It's a barrel rack. So I kept blue dye, red dye, and green dye in here. But all my oil, I kept some lye in there for leather. Since it's my only barrel rack right now, I keep that stuff there. I have my mailbox and my token, and this is kind of like a little seating area that overlooks the beautiful view that I have from my deed here. It's amazing, the view, especially with the sun when it moves around behind the mountains and stuff, and there's this mirror on the lake, and oh man, I love this. I love this deed. I love the view from here. And again, all of this didn't exist. This whole piece of land here, I had to pour dirt to make all of this. This whole platform did not exist. So this is where I got the guy to grind my hot food cooking. He labeled all the forges he was using and put them all close together, and he power leveled my hot food cooking on Longbottom. This is my new Nar that I picked up with the ship transporter and brought up here. I imagine, and I don't know for sure, but I think if you put a ship on a ship transporter and bring it onto your deed, I'm hoping the ship will not take decay damage, but I'm not sure about that. Somebody wants to put an answer in the comments, go right ahead, or an answer for any other question I've had during this, or any info that I might have wrong, or a question I'm asking. If you have an answer for it, please by all means write a comment. Smash that follow button, subscribe, do whatever, right? Because if I see that people are interested in my streams, then obviously I'll continue doing them. So now this whole area is kind of blank because this is all set up for new buildings to be put up here. And again, they're themed sort of buildings, so I have a cook building, I have my smith, I have my sort of my smelter, so all those buildings are done, and I want to put a church probably like somewhere here. I don't know what else I'm going to put on that side. Like, I'll figure it out eventually. This is the castle that's a work in progress. Again, this was started before the new wall types came out, so it's stone, right? But it's not that bad because like I got one of these guard towers, and I actually thought to myself, hey, like it's almost the same kind of brick, and it looks cool. If only it was a real, like if only we could build something that looks like this, right? It's not really a solid object, right? You just kind of go through it, which is okay. I mean, you can't climb these stairs up to the top or nothing like that. But I put an altar inside here, my pow wheeler altar. And I have another altar on this side, which is the gold altar. And then I have a stone altar for Venora on the other side. So let me jump into that before I get into the castle. So because this character is Venora, it gets that skill bonus from Faith. so it gets the skill gain bonus. And my forges are over here, which is where I do all of my crafting. So I wanted the buff for Venora to be present in my crafting area, which is here. And then in the other area, I wanted my Power Wheeler buff to take effect. So as soon as I go past a certain point, the buff will disappear. So there, it just disappeared. So Venora buff is okay on this tile, and then the minute you go onto this tile, it disappears. So I've improved that altar over there to only be powerful enough to carry the aura up to this point. And then beyond this point, it's Power Wheeler, which is the other altar that I have on the opposite side there. And that gives the bonus for Power Wheeler to my priests. And that altar sits inside here so that it can extend out to the farm and stuff like that. But that's just an example of how you can set up your altars so that different parts of your deed correspond to a different domain, God's domain. And then within that domain, of course, you can throw any gold altar that you want to use for like sermoning or praying or doing your sacking for your spells. So like eventually, like my altar is here for now, but eventually once I build that church, I'm gonna move those gold altars into the church, and they're all gonna be inside there. But for now, they're not. I have a full altar down there in between the two stables. There's gonna be one in the church down the road. The other thing too is so let me go back to the castle for a moment. What I did with the castle is I built the guard tower here so that I could integrate it to make it almost look like it was part of the castle, even though it isn't. So I put it in this corner here, right? And it kind of makes it look like it's a part of the tower of the castle. So once my whole castle is built, it'll have 3 towers that I built into it, and then the 4th tower is technically that tower right there, the guard tower, the lower height tower, sitting in the back there. And from the front of the castle, you're able to see that and sort of that area there, right? From all the front, meaning, or sorry, the side, from down below, you could see that side of the castle, right? With the door to the guard tower and the 2 little thingy, frost turret and acid turret, whatever. And then I got these banners. These banners, they don't make them anymore. And I thought, damn, that's a shame because they look awesome. It's got like the knight's picture on it or whatever. These are the old JK banners, the original design. So I really liked the knight. I don't care about all the factions and stuff and the kingdom and whatever. I care more about it looks awesome. So I took this design and I bought these. I snatched them up when I had the opportunity, and so I put all 4 of those on the front of the castle, so it looks cool. And then I got these little dogs here, statues, and then I got the marble nymph statue there. And then now most people with the new bridges, they built, like, I remember I built this pre all the bridge stuff, so I created this kind of entrance that looks kind of neat on the front here. But a lot of what people do now is they'll put a bridge, so it's kind of like a bridge thing. It's kind of like a pointed bridge entrance type thing. So what I might do is take it up to that 3rd level there and create kind of like a bridge there that connects these 2 sides and kind of like adds an overhang on top of this original entrance or something like that. And that'll kind of cover this open area here, and maybe it'll add some coolness factor to the castle. Now I don't know, I'm gonna have to plan it. I finally got myself one of those staffs again, range pole. I had one at my old deed, but then I lost it. Couldn't remember where I put it. So I just got one again, and I'll be able to like plan this out one day and see what I want to do. But basically, with my current building skill, this was as big as I could make the castle at the time, with my carpentry being at 66, and then and my masonry being what it is, and my paving. So I made a six floor towers. The towers are 6 floors high, and the actual castle itself will be about three floors. So, and the reason for that is it's technically it's 2 floors because it's high ceiling. So the first floor is a high ceiling, and then there's going to be an enclosed, like the walls aren't finished here yet, but this will be an enclosed area here, which isn't done yet. But it'll be enclosed, and then basically what you do is this is considered one of the towers, so you won't see open walls on the top here, and you'll come in here, and then there's the stairs to go up, and there's a crate here. I should put that in my boat. Anyway, you'll go up the stairs. It's interesting, this corner is open. Why is that? Is that normal? I guess maybe it is. I thought that corner was supposed to be closed. The heck? I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I just thought the railing would have been consistent all the way through. Anyway, you go up the stairs like this, and it brings you all the way to the top of the tower. Or it's the top floor, rather. The second floor. And then this will be another floor, right? And eventually it'll be open, actually, sorry, it'll be open like this. And then you can kind of see, you know, building some walls. So this part will be kind of open, and unless I change the design, I'm not sure yet. But all this back part, that's all planned walls. And then the other tower will be here, just like the opposite side. I'm going to build that up. And then you keep going up one little step at a time here. Keep going up. And then and here's another, you know, what could be another floor. This is going to be the 3rd floor of the castle. Again, the same ceiling height as the 1st floor, so there's actually 2 floors in between ceilings so that it's got high ceilings. So this will technically be the floor, or the roof to the 2nd floor is technically this level. And this can be another floor in and of itself. And then you go up. Yeah, so actually that other portion in the front, I'm going to have to fix that or something. But anyway, whatever. You get the idea. Anyway, you get to the top, and then this is the top of the tower, and you can look down below and look on top of the Tundra Mountain. You could see the Humpback Mountain in the background. You could see the hill with the big forest and all the mountains and the water and the ships down below. It's an impressive looking view from up here. So I'm going to have 3 towers. This will be 1 tower. There'll be another one in the corner down there. There'll be another one in the corner down there. And then there's the guard tower there, which doesn't block the view of that side. So that's kind of nice. And then you can also see the farm down below. So that's my whole farming area down there. And then at the end there's my wagoner guy with the crate rack over there. And that's my connection to the highway. It's actually that corner over there. So I'll just come down my castle here. I could probably play around with some of these floors too if I decide to, but I'm content, you know, for an old school castle. It's not bad. I mean, I didn't use all the new wall types, but that's okay. I got some marble floors down here. I got some, you know, different floors up there. It looks pretty decent. I'm happy with it. It is kind of period appropriate, I guess, in a way, in terms of like medieval castle and what they look like, being stone and stuff. Again, not sure if the bed and everything is gonna stay as is, like all this, but it's cozy and it's nice for now. So the table is out of place. It shouldn't, you know, that's not really a good place for it. But again, like once I add another floor, I'll have room for that stuff. And then of course I have a fireplace. And the nice thing is they auto light themselves now. In the past they didn't, and now they're actually true fireplaces. So it's nice. You can actually have a fireplace now that stays lit. And you know, I got some sorry, excuse me. I got a wardrobe here, and I got some pole arm rack and some spinning wheel for tailoring, and I got some other tailoring stuff. So technically the tailoring will happen inside the castle, which is a good spot for it, I guess, because it's kind of interesting looking crafting items for castle decoration. They kind of double up as castle decoration. I have a couple of these tapestries in here. Um, and I got doors to go outside, double door to go out the sides of each castle, outside of each side of the castle, and then the double doors in the front with the gates, right? So so that worked out pretty good. I'm content with it. I just need to actually get bricks and finish doing it. Um, the other thing that I'm gonna use bridges for, because I thought of a use for bridges for this place, and that is to connect this upper level to somewhere down there. So instead of me having to go all the way around the front, go all the way down the road and down to my farm that way, I can have a bridge that connects from up here to down there. And I don't know if I'm going to connect it directly to my castle yet or what I'm going to do, but I'm going to have probably a bridge up here that goes from this upper level down to the other side of the farm somewhere. Um, and that way there you can go from down there right up into the castle if you want, or to get to the upper floor quickly. Um, and then I actually re-sloped this whole side of the deed so that you can go up and down easily with your horse and stuff. And then I've planted oak trees. They haven't grown yet, but there's gonna be, you know, oak trees separated by a tile each, and that'll kind of like be a nice little background to the side of the deed here. So that's kind of what I've built so far. I've done this all solo by myself so far, so I don't have any help building these things. I do it all myself little by little when I have the time, when I'm not skill grinding. Um, so then we're almost done, sure, and then I'll get to the cooking thing. So here's the other part. So this is a work in progress, so I'm sorry about the roof being messed up here, but I'm going to show you why. So before they added these T-walls, these wooden T-arches, the only way to create stables that looked like this, where it was enclosed with roof and a gate and a stall for each horse, was to make an unfinished wall and build on the border tile, build these fence gates. So the building was technically unfinished and stayed unfinished, even though it appeared finished. And each gate functioned in that it kept the animals in and other stuff out, and you could lock each gate, but it's still considered an unfinished building, right? But now they've created this wooden archway. So now that there's a wooden archway, I can actually replace the face of each of these unfinished walls with one of these wooden T-arches, rebuild each gate so that each one will have this, and then I'll redo the roof, and I'm going to do that for both stables. I already calculated all the materials I need to do both stables, redo the front of both stables, not including the roof tiles, mind you, um, but that's another project I have to do fairly soon. But that's why I have my horse statues here in the little tapestry with the horses, is because this is where I keep my horses that I'm gonna breed. Each pen is enchanted, so it's got enchanted grass in each one. Each pen can hold 2 animals, and I have 2 stables, stable 1 and stable 2, and I think they hold quite a bit. Let me see. I put some chain fence and some gravel here to make it look kind of cool. So there's like 128. Yeah, so there's like 28 gates in total. So 28 times 2 animals. So that's like what? Um, that's like that's 56 animals that I can keep in these stables. Two per stall. So I can keep 56 horses or a mix of different animals or whatever I want. And then on top of that, I can have animals on my farm, grazing on my farm. So like I could throw like sheep and cows and stuff down there and keep these stables just for horses. Um, so then I built this other road. That road is only for accessing the stables, so that's all enclosed. And I was actually gonna build a two-tiled road here, right? But then I realized, well, I need to get a ton of dirt if I'm gonna do that, because I'm gonna have to drop all the dirt to fill what 96 slope from there all the way to there. So since I didn't have the dirt or the time to do that right now, I decided to just make two roads instead, just to give it a nice looking shape, and then put these sandstone slabs down and make it look nice. So you can get there's two roads to get to the farm. There's the lower road and the upper road. Now the lower road, it's possible what I could do is leave the upper road like that, and then this can become in the future, if I decide to drop dirt, it could become a second platform, kind of like the top platform. This could become kind of like a second platform that integrates all the way down to the harbor area there. So I mean, like, this is all kind of like this could all be deeded land and like built up and stuff to become an even bigger deed. Um, so there's lots of potential here to do more dirt dropping and building and connecting with roads and stuff. This is my farm. It's fairly large. I forget how many tiles it is, but it's equivalent to X amount of acres in real life. I forget how many. I think it was like a quarter of an acre. I don't know what it is. Something like that. Anyway, I made a decent sized um, farming area here to pull lots of crops from. So and I think I have enough room to plant pretty much every type of crop here. So um, and then what I can do is I could put like rows with that other, what's that woven fence I can use to make rows and make the rows face west and east because the sun I think goes from northwest to, wait, northwest to west or something like that. And the sun travels along this part of the sky, so I'll make it face the rows face that way maybe or something. Or I could do the rows the opposite way. It doesn't matter. I guess I'll have to think about it, but that's the farm, and I have to build more of this crude wooden fence on the opposite side because it's not technically fully enclosed yet. I have to create that whole other side, but I'm gonna do that soon. Um, I put a little gate here just, you know, in case you want to run through the farm and get out without having to go all the way around. There's still a gate that's there to get out through the wagoner here. Um, and this is where my wagoner sits, and this is my connection to the highway. So my highway connection starts here. My wagoner is sitting right here, and then I got my crate rack, and I got my waystone, my first waystone connecting my deed here. So all my deliveries come right here, and they drop like right at the waystone here, and then I just pick them up and bring them up to my deed. So this is the new road that I built right here. It runs along here, and it connects up to this other waystone that already existed. And that this part of the highway is incomplete because somebody built this. I guess they had an idea to keep going up the mountain or something. But there's actually nothing over there right now. So this is just in it's just there for now until it actually gets used maybe at some point in the future. But this leads to another deed. You know, I put some extra waystones down just so that people don't get lost. So this shows that there's another deed 145 tiles that way, and then my deed is that way, and then down this way there's the three-legged troll, which is a different deed. So this is the highway that you follow to get, anywhere on Xanadu. Basically, you go from here and you go all the way up north to Summerholt or wherever you want to go, right? Or you follow it south to like Lorimier area. I've actually gone by land from here to those places without a hitch. It's like 5,000 tiles of travel each way, and I've had no issues. The new highway system is it's great. So I'm happy that's all connected now, which is good. I just finished two-tiling this road today, so I'm gonna put like a nice little fence along this perimeter area here, because I think this is considered. Yeah, that's within the village, and then this side here is considered perimeter, I believe. Yeah, that's perimeter. So this fence will still be on village technically, and then beyond that, that's perimeter there. So, um, and then back there behind the farm, I can create a tree forest if I want to. I just finished cutting all the trees down from over here because I wanted to clear up the view and make it more visible for the stream and stuff. So some of the trees are already growing back, I see, but this was littered with trees all in here. I cut them all down. Um, Now I get a lot of random little animals that appear here because there's tundra on this mountain. That's basically called Tundra Mountain. That's what I call it because it's all tundra, see? Like steppe I should say, and tundra. So animals spawn a lot on the opposite side of this mountain. There's tons and tons of animals that spawn, and it's good because it's good for hunting here. So my hunting grounds are just on the other side. I just follow the road down that way and get to the other side, and my hunting grounds are over there. So, and then over here is the last item on the deed, which is that house that the other two people that are on the citizens of my deed, they started building that property up there. I don't know if they're coming back to finish it or when they're going to come back, but it's there for now anyway. And there's a bit of a road that they started building, and I kind of built this little extension that I haven't finished yet, but it's supposed to be a flat road to connect to this road that they've created. And then this road, I guess their goal was to make it 20 slope and make it all the way down to the bottom to the other road that I already created. So this is their own private road. Um, so that's part of the deed as well, technically. So, oops. See what I mean about getting stuck? That's why I built roads up here. Anyway, for that reason, because that's the thing with mountains. You get uneven slopes. Anyway, this whole road is 20 slope all the way down, which is the ideal maximum slope for a road going up and down a hill like this is 20 if you can do it. You can build it steeper, but usually they don't recommend it, so I built it 20 slope. It's consistent all the way down, pretty much. All the way down to the water. Took a little while to get it right, but I did. And then I'm building an obelisk here. Kind of like almost half done building it. So that's pretty much my deed so far. Just gonna park my horse over here for a minute. Now we're gonna get to the whole cooking thing, since everybody's kind of waited long enough for that. This is a long episode, but I don't care. People can fast forward if they want to and view different parts of it. Let me see if I can find that other item. Oh, I got to clean my forge. Apparently there's ash in it. Yeah, okay, I didn't put it in here. What have I got in here? I got backpacks with stuff in it. Just horseshoes. Actually, I need to repair that one. Stuff that takes damage in here over time. See, there's damage on some of these things. Not a huge deal. I can imp them up whenever, but it actually gives me some repair skill. No more damage on those. This is a plate set I'm actually going to finish and sell at some point. I'm going to imp it up to 85 quality, and then I'm going to finish casting these pieces with AOSP. So I'm going to sell it eventually. Or sorry, this is web armor, my bad. This is web armor. Now I'm going to put web armor on the rest of it and sell it. But if you want a steel plate set at some point and with web armor on it, then let me know and I'll reserve it for you. Oh. Oh, alrighty. Let's switch to long bottom. Switch to long bottom. Okay, so long bottom here has all the ingredients that I wanted to play around with today. So I'm just gonna quickly have a bite to eat here. I should get a soul depth affinity food. That way when I'm grinding soul depth, I gain more skill. Maybe I should do that like when I start making all those meals and farming for soul depth or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of funny, this priest actually has archery affinity. My other priest has religion affinity, which is more useful for a priest, but this one ended up with archery affinity. So, whatever. I used archery in the beginning to help get its body control up so that it can do the basics it needs to do, and it's got 23 body strength, so I can, you know, load crates and stuff. So like I said, I did some basic skills on this character to get that up. So wood cutting, hot food cooking, archery, um, prayer and channeling, of course. Um, yeah, just some basics. I mean, again, it's a starter character. It's more of a battery right now for my other priest than anything right now, but it will be its own uh, full-fledged priest at some point. So now I've got my rare frying pans that are at 91 quality, which is good. Finished imping those. Now I'm going to throw all my crops in there. So basically what I've done is a little bit of research on what crops can I drop? Like what things, I'm going to organize this while I talk. What things can I drop in here that are essentially going to still be able to make a meal and that I could just take and remove from it to increase or decrease difficulty. Something that's quick and easy based on the materials that I have. And based on something that you would find in real life. So basically I came up with this and I'll explain it in a minute. Let me just organize it and then I'll explain it. What I've sort of done. Again, this is all just trial and error, and I don't know if this is gonna work or not work or make sense or not make sense because I'm not following the recipe system in the game. I haven't done thorough research on this or anything. And as I mentioned earlier, I had this character pan filled, so I don't have. I haven't spent the time figuring out the cooking system at all. So just kind of gonna go at it willy-nilly here. um, Let me see what I can come up with. I labeled all of this so that I could set up the order the way I had it so that I could explain what my thinking was about this. Why I came up with this, basically. Um, yeah. So, okay. So in the cooking guide, they break all the new food, all the foods down into categories. So you have your meats, you have your crops, you have your fruits and nuts, you have your herbs, your spices, your dairy, your salt, which is like, I'll explain that in a minute, um, and whatnot. So the first step of what I did was I said, I want to create a simple meal and I want to see if maybe, just maybe, the system will say, hey, I'm gonna let you save this as your own private recipe. I don't know if it's gonna let me do it. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. I've never even read up on how to do it. I haven't researched it or anything. I'm just kind of, like I said, gonna cook it and see what happens. So I went online and I did a little bit of quick research on what sorts of ingredients do typically end up in stews. And I discovered a couple things. Number one, I don't have a stew recipe in my cookbook. I probably would have to spend time buying recipes from people or whatever um, to fill my cookbook with recipes that Worm knows about. Um, Needless to say, I didn't find a recipe for broth and things like that. I don't even know if you can make that kind of stuff in the game. So bottom line is, I didn't. This may not mimic what I was looking for originally, but nonetheless, my goal was to come up with maybe I can create some kind of highly nutritious meal that uses a bunch of the different ingredients from the different categories and mixes it all together into one meal. And then I can just use it for basically raising my soul depth skill because the meal difficulty is at the correct level to get skill gains, and maybe along the way I'll discover some um, useful affinities. Maybe not, probably not, but that's just luck if I do. Um, but the main reason is just to get a meal that you can add and remove from to get the desired difficulty. Cook it with fairly common ingredients that you can normally farm or obtain, and a meal that you can make as complex or as simple as you want, and still have it work when you click on the lore button. So what I ended up doing was looking up ingredients for stews in real life, and I found that there's different kinds of stews all around the world, and they all have a different number of ingredients, but there is a fairly common denominator of ingredients that tend to show up in various stews, and those are exactly what's in front of you right now. So in real life, a lot of these ingredients are used either in stews or in mixes, like powdery mixes for stews, along with some of these ingredients and so on and so forth. So I just mapped everything out and labeled everything. So I broke it all down by category based on, you know, what the cooking guide says. So first of all, most of them are beef stews, so I chose beef and I diced the meat and created beef meat here. Uh, Technically, most stews have at least 2 pounds of meat. This has zero point 0.3 kilograms of meat here in the game, And I've come to realize I need probably more meat. But nonetheless, at least you get the idea. There's some meat here. I could add more meat. It'll probably just add more weight and it'll probably still be valid. I'll do that in a little bit. But anyway, uh, meat, you can put like beef or chicken or pork or whatever in here. Um, and then garlic, peas, onions, tomatoes, corn, carrots, potatoes are typical crops that you would normally find in real world stews, and we have them in the game. Now, each of these crops, I put a number beside them, and that's because in the cooking guide, it shows you what farming skill you should have when you're farming up these crops. So, low farming skill up to high farming skill. Those are the different skills of these different crops. So if you're a low B guy and you want to get a meal difficulty that's more in your range and your farming is not high, you might, exclude some of the higher level ingredients there and simplify it based on your needs. Um, Nuts, I mean, some stews have nuts in them and some don't, so it's kind of optional. But the only two nuts that there's only, I think, three nuts in the game, but the two nuts that seem to pop up in searches are hazelnuts and chestnuts. I didn't have chestnut, unfortunately, or I would have put one in here, but that's why I put or chestnut. So you can get some hazelnut or chestnut and put a nut in your recipe. So I got, now we've got meat, we've got crop, and we've got a nut in the recipe. Um, and then there's herbs. Well, parsley and rosemary are the most common that I find in stews. An alternate would be thyme, or and then some of the stew mixes, like the powdery mixes that you get, the ground mixes, have basil and oregano in them. So those are considered alternates. Basil, oregano, thyme, but parsley and rosemary are usually used the most in stews. Um, Oh, that's interesting. Something's killing a cow. Uh, anyway, or a cow just died. What a random time for that to happen. As we're talking about stew, a cow dies and offers its meat up for me. Anyway, that's pretty funny. Um, so, what's kind of cool about this is, yeah, okay, I'm making this in the game, but you could actually take these ingredients in real life and make yourself a stew at home. So if you got a crock pot, here's a nice little crock pot idea for you. Take these ingredients and mix and match them any way you want, and you've got yourself a crock pot stew that you can make in real life at home. It's just a matter of playing with, how much of each ingredient you throw in. But anyway, onward with the conversation. So we covered herbs. So we got crops, we got nut, we got herb. That's three different categories of food now incorporated into our meal. And then we have spices. So paprika is the most common that I've seen in stews in real life. And then as an alternate, you can use cumin or ginger if you want like, an Asian flavor to your meal or an Indian flavor to your meal. You could even put like coriander and stuff like that. But the game doesn't have that. The game has, you know, certain spices, and out of that list, I picked the ones that fit the real world description of stew, which happen to be these three. So, main one being paprika. So, and then cheese. Some stews they say feel free to add cheese on top after. I don't know a whole lot of people that do that, but it can be done. Now in the game we have cheese, and then we have specific cheeses like bison cheese, cow cheese, sheep cheese. Again, it's made from different milk. So like the bison cheese is probably called something. The cow's milk cheese is just a regular cheese, I think, and then the sheep cheese I think comes out as feta or something like that. Anyway, there's three different types of cheeses from what I can gather anyway. Uh, Maybe there's others, I don't know, but Those are the three most common ones. Now, in real life, probably cow and sheep would be the most common. Um, but you know, we have our cheese in here. So I got one cheese, I got one nut, I got a couple of herbs, I got a spice, I got crop, and I got meat. So I've covered pretty much almost all of the categories of food in the game. So it's a nice little mix of ingredients, right? And then we have salt. So salt you can get from rock salt, and it just has a hidden salted flag in the game that makes your meal decay less quickly. And in addition, you can wrap your meal, and if you wrap your meal, it will also decay not as fast. You wrap it in wax paper or whatever it is. I think it's wax paper. You got to create it with beeswax and papyrus or something like that. Actually, we should probably do that before before we create the meal, just so that we have a nicely wrapped meal. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I could stick it in my magic chest and it won't matter, but if you take it out and you want to travel with it or whatever, it's probably wise to have it reduced in decay as much as possible. Um, so, you know, you have it salt in it and have it wrapped, and then that way, when you're carrying it in your inventory, it won't decay as quickly. Otherwise, if you leave it in your magic chest, you can just eat it right out of there, and it'll never decay, which is normally what I do. I don't usually carry meals with me because I refresh anyway. So if I'm out in the field and I lose too much nutrition or something, I can always refresh and not have to worry about it because my character has refresh um, because of the Venora spells. Um, I don't know if Longbottom has it. I can't remember. I think my other one does, but because I think Longbottom is a different meditation path. Yeah, I'm Path of Knowledge on Longbottom and not Path of Love. So my other priest has refresh, but not this one. Um, but he's a cook, so he doesn't really need refresh. He can cook meals to get that, right? That's again, you know, like another reason why I kind of tailored this guy to do certain things. Like he's the cook, he's the woodcutter, he's the alchemist, he's the spellcaster. He's, you know what I mean? So he's gonna be the tamer as well. You know, he'll be able to cut his crops and feed his favor for his priest spells, stuff like that. And anyway, getting down to the rest here. So these are all alternatives, right? So alternatives for herbs and spices that you would normally see in real world stews. Fennel is included in some stews, and the closest thing we have to that in the game is fennel seed, which counts as a spice, as well as cumin and ginger does. Um, so basically, you can add and remove any of these based on whatever you want to create to create whatever spell difficulty you want. Now, or sorry, meal difficulty. So now let's just take, for example, let's include all of this. And let's see what the frying pan tells us. So I click lore, and it says the ingredients in the frying pan would make a beef meal when cooked. And the difficulty of that meal would be 130, which is very high, right? Now, they say in the guide that you should be cooking meals to get an optimal skill tick. You should be cooking meals 20 below your current hot food cooking skill. So if you're 90 and you still want to get ticks, apparently you're supposed to be cooking 70 difficulty meals. So each time I remove one of these, it's going to lose 5 points. So I'll remove that. And I'll click lore, and there it is, 125. So like I said, uh, now cheese, I don't know if that affects it. Does cheese affect it? Let's see. Yeah, cheese is worth 5 points. Paprika is worth, 5 points. They're all worth 5 points, I believe. So again, the reason I labeled them as main things or alternate things is because if you want to just for um, role playing standpoint, if from a role playing perspective, you want to stay sort of realistic, I guess you could say, then you would only choose the main ingredients and keep the alternates out, or you would choose an alternate as you would in real life. So, for example, people would substitute rosemary with thyme in real life if you wanted to make it an alternate. So this gives you the ability to, you know, uh, not care about role playing or care about role playing. Either way, you can do whatever you want by adding and removing whatever ingredients. Because from a real life standpoint, these are all legit ingredients for a stew, or in this case in the game, it's called a beef meal because we don't have any liquid in here. Um, and again, I don't know if it's possible to make a stew in the game. Probably is, but you know, in any case, uh, there you have it. So a while ago, I had already figured out a combo. Like take out some of these things, and I can make it, you know, difficulty of 70. I can make it less than that. I can make it more than that. So you know, this can be pretty much custom tailored. So if I take, let's just say, we'll take the lowest level crop. We'll take one nut, one crop, one herb. Let's say rosemary. We'll take the cheese, I guess, the paprika, the salt, and then we'll get rid of everything else, right? This is like a dumbed down, oops, a dumbed down version. So that difficulty would actually be 65 difficulty meal, which would mean you would need to be 85 food cooking for this complexity of meal. Now, let's take out some things. Well, let's take out nuts, which are not always common, cheese, which are not always common, and we end up with one crop, one herb, one spice, some salt, which doesn't matter in terms of points. I believe it doesn't, and then a piece of meat. And let's take the lore on that. The lore on that is 55, so you would be 65, 75. You'd be around 75 hot food cooking to have that meal there. Um, and let's go even simpler. Let's pretend you didn't put a spice or herb, and maybe you just had a meat, a potato. And a meat and a potato is a 45 difficulty. Uh, so you're 55, 65. You're 65 hot food cooking with this. Um, Now, the reason for that could be because I diced and chopped some of these things. I don't know if having it in a frying pan changes the difficulty. A non-rare? Nope, non-rare doesn't matter. Let's put it in a cauldron and see what happens. Cauldron, have you tried adding any oil? So this changes the recipe apparently. So I guess maybe it's possible to make a stew in a cauldron or something. What else? What does cake tin say? Cake tin, obviously this isn't going to make a cake, so that does nothing. You can put it in a baking stone and lower it if you want, and it's going to say try adding some pastry. So again, you know, there's another different kind of recipe you could come up with. And it really depends what container. Now, you put this in, right? And that changes what kind of recipe you come up with for the container. In my case, though, just for the hell of it, I'm going to put everything in here. I know I'm not going to get a skill tick because it's going to be like hardcore difficulty, way higher than it needs to be, because it's 130 now. Actually, I wanted to add more meat because real life asks for 2 pounds of meat. And I know I'm just doing this for fun and it doesn't really add any value. I'm just doing it for fun. But you know, I thought I had some beef in here. Other beef. I guess not. Whatever. I thought I had higher quality beef in here. But apparently I don't. These are all 0.30 kilo. So let me see. I forget how much 2 pounds is. 2 pounds. 2 2 kilograms. So 2 pounds is 0.9 kilos. So I need 3 of these 0.30 meats. So I'll just do that and then I'll use my knife and I'll chop it up. Oh, I found an interesting thing actually. When you chop meat and mince it, like the first time you do it, it creates diced meat. Sorry, not chopped meat. Diced meat. And the second time you do it, it creates minced meat. Minced meat cannot go back into the food storage bin because it's considered processed or unprocessed or I forget what it is. I think it's considered processed food or something. Um, but yeah, you can put diced meat back into an FSB, but you can't put minced meat back into an FSB, which is kind of interesting. I guess there's restrictions on that for certain things. Yeah, let's add those two. Now the difficulty's probably gone up. Oh, have you tried removing any meat? Okay, so it won't let me do like a real life stew and have 2 pounds of meat in there. Nope, not taking it. How about 2 meat? Nope, it only takes 1 meat. Okay, so I guess we're just gonna have 1 meat. Okay, that's fine, whatever. You see what I mean? You gotta play around with the lore to get these things to work. They don't always work as you expect. And again, I'm just doing a real life comparison to can I do it in the game just for the hell of it? Not because it makes any particular sense or it has any advantage in the game, just for the hell of it. So, okay, so we got our 91 quality frying pan. I have 90 HFC, and I am going to cook this huge uh, beef meal and see what happens. Uh, this should be interesting. So I will light the fire, kick the tires and light the fire, so to speak. And we will cook this meal and see what quality it turns out to be. Does it refill my calories, carbs, fats, and proteins? Or does it do a piss poor job of it because I've totally didn't research just like I said, but I figure I'm just gonna do this again, not having researched anything. I'm just gonna fly by the seat of my pants and say that because I've tackled every category of food and put every category of food into this meal, that's herbs, spices, nut, crop, and meat. 5 different food groups there that are in the game, or food categories from the game. Um, because I've done that, I'm hoping this will give me like 100 CCFB in like the first bite. And it's pure luck if it gives me an affinity that I just happen to need, which I doubt. Because again, I'm not doing this for affinity. I'm just doing it for fun tonight. But also to find a way to quickly make 70 difficulty meals, which I will be able to do. Okay, so this turned out to be not bad, I guess. 55 quality. I expected a little better. The weight is 3.5 kilo, which is not bad actually. It's a little low, but for a beef meal, it's not bad. I mean, pizzas are what, 10 kilograms, something like that. Um, but nonetheless, so this is a hot meal. Let's see, this is a let's call it uh, real world stew. Uh, actually, RL stew. Let's just put that RL stew ingredients. I've taken screenshots, so I remember what I put in it. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna pop that in here in my Hoda statue. Okay, now I'm gonna switch over to Neville because he needs to eat, I think. Um, so let me do a quick switch over to Neville. Uh, and I will see. Yeah, he needs to eat and drink desperately. His nutrition sucks. 63% right now. I haven't refreshed him today, so uh, he's he's in a bad mood and needs food. So let's see if this food works or if it's just crap. I have a feeling it's just going to be crap. Just because of the quality. Well, maybe not. I guess we'll see. Let's find out what it does for us. Eat. Oh, look at that. Boom. Instant. Look at that. What did I get for an affinity? Oh, fishing. That's actually not that bad. So, okay. So, it's actually useful. I haven't done fishing on this character, but it's actually a useful affinity. Nonetheless, so I took one bite of this meal. I guess the quality level didn't seem to matter because, it bumped me up actually. If I keep eating it, I wonder if how high my nutrition would go. Um, but it did its job as far as CCFB, calories, carbs, fats, and proteins. Boom! It was like instant. Just filled the bars instantly. So that did a perfect job as a CCFB meal, which is good. So that could be used as a CCFB meal, no problem. One little bite and boom, there you go. And I even got 2 hours of affinity out of that. That's not bad for one bite. That's pretty damn good. All right. So I'm actually impressed now. I'm impressed, I have to say. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to Longbottom, and I want to see like what skill did Longbottom get from cooking that meal. Um, Nothing. He didn't get anything, which is what I figured, because the difficulty of that meal was like 130, and it should be 70 for 90 hot food cooking, because it's your skill minus 20. But again, because I've designed that meal in such a way that like obviously it could go right up to 130, or you can take ingredients out at 5 points at a time until you get down to 70 points of difficulty. I'm gonna actually try making more of these meals, more of these beef meals, at 70 difficulty and see if it helps me level my soul depth. And if it does, then I've met two goals. One goal, I can use them as CCFB meals. Uh, Second goal, I could randomly get affinity that's useful. Actually, let's see what the affinity Longbottom gets. So he gets affinity, stealing affinity. Okay, 2 hour stealing affinity timer. I wonder what my other priest gets actually. I'm gonna load up another client. I don't have it set up in OBS though, but what I will do is step back from the statue and let you see my other priest come in and take a bite of this meal. Let me just get this going here. I'm actually pretty content with that. Damn. That was surprising. That was surprising. Mind you, I have 100 quality crops mixed in there, so that might help. But nonetheless, I mean, feel free to experiment. Use the same ingredients, add and remove as you need to. Try with different qualities and just, see what you get. Who knows? Maybe there's some logic to this. Maybe it happens to be a good, easy way of getting your bars up without having to go through the whole cooking system to understand it, figure it out, look in your recipe. You don't have to do any of that. Just look at what I just did, replicate it, and add, remove as you need, and then maybe, who knows, maybe that's good enough.Maybe you'll find, like, because there's so many ingredients, each time you add or remove an ingredient, you're going to get a different affinity. So maybe just for fun, instead of using an affinity calculator or buying somebody's affinity food, you can make like a bunch of these meals and remove an ingredient each time and have, like, I don't know how many meals that makes, but you'll have X number of meals created from this list of ingredients that I put together. And maybe out of those, you'll find some affinity foods that you actually like. And guess what? The bonus is you didn't have to use a test meal, and you didn't have to figure out the whole cooking system to do it. And at the same time, it injects a little bit of mystery and discovery into this whole world of worm cooking. So maybe this is a different way of looking at it, uh, you know, than trying to delve into the complexity of the whole system itself. Instead of worrying about that, just just do what I just did, um, and there you go. Okay, I'm gonna try and load my third client now. I don't know why this didn't work the other day. I was having issues with VBO objects. Yeah, see, the client just crashed. So I can't enable that. I guess if you have two clients that have FBO enabled in the compatibility settings, they crash. I don't know why, but with the modern renderer, that seems to be the case, at least on my PC. Um, in order to run multiple clients, I have to actually have only one client, my main client, with FBO support turned on, and my other clients, my alts, have to have FBO support turned completely off, disabled in the compatibility settings, in order for the client to load without crashing. I don't know why that is. It's very odd, but maybe somebody's figured out an answer to that problem. I don't know if that's an issue with the modern renderer, but I don't recall ever having to touch the compatibility settings in the past to run multiple clients without them crashing. But now with the new modern renderer, apparently you do have to worry about that because they just crash. And I know it's the FBO that causes it because when you look at the crash logs, it says, errors with FBO objects and stuff. So, what happened? Okay, I was just in the game and it crashed again. Ah, that's interesting. Why? Why did it crash again? See, this is very odd. I never used to have these problems with the old client. Maybe I need to run the old renderer instead of the new renderer to get multiple clients to work without crashing. Albeit, they did say that this feature is going to be deprecated and removed from the game eventually. But the problem with that now is, well, if they remove it from the game, am I going to be able to run multiple clients, or am I going to be stuck crashing all the time? So now I'm just going to turn that FBO thing back on, and I'm going to turn it to legacy renderer and see if my third client crashes. Yes, it did. So that didn't matter. Okay. So that's not going to work. So back to FBO disabled. So I'll try FBO disabled with legacy renderer, and we'll see if that works. This is very odd. I know how to solve this. Basically, I'd have to exit out of Neville, put him on disabled FBO support. Basically, running all three of my clients with FBO disabled, is the only way I can get all 3 clients to run without crashing, apparently. Because that's what I had to do for the Impelong event. So, again, I shouldn't have to do that. There's something messed up with the code that's causing this to happen. Or maybe the new Java, I don't know. But I have the latest Java, so that can't be the problem. I think it's the game. I think it's just, I don't know. It seems to be some kind of bug. And again, you could see it in the logs. Maybe it's because I'm running SLI and the game doesn't like the fact that I'm running a couple of cards in SLI. I don't know. I have no idea. It doesn't make sense to me why it crashes. Because it never did in the past. I used to run multiple clients with the compatibility settings all enabled and I never had an issue. And now all of a sudden I do. So it's very odd. Okay, so what I'm gonna have to do then is exit uh, these clients. I'm sorry to do that, but it's necessary. So just bear with me while I exit these clients and set them all up for that compatibility mode. Alright. So Neville needs to run without FBO enabled. So I disable that. And then come back in the game. And then go to um, long bottom and do the same thing for long bottom, because long bottom is core enabled as well. Actually, was I running 2? Maybe you can't run 3 clients with core enabled, but you can run 2? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I'm shutting it off anyway, because I know it works. It's just not ideal, because certain things don't render properly with that turned off, but whatever. It's fine. It's just to get past this issue. Yeah, I don't know why that happens. Maybe this is a known bug already that they've already kind of talked about. Maybe there's a fix for it that I don't know about. I don't know. Or maybe it's just happening on my machine and nobody else's because I have SLI set up or something. Or my machine's a little bit different. I don't know. I don't know. Alright, okay, last one is my love. Let's change that one. Back to the modern render. Save. Click. Am I getting a black screen in OBS still? Yes, I am. Okay. I need to fix that now. Why is that happening? Why can't I see the client now? Okay, hold on. I gotta fix this. There's some reason why I'm not able to, like, you exit the game and then you go back into OBS and then you see that nothing is there. Why? Why is nothing there? I don't want to have to stop the stream just to come back because this is not showing me a window now. Okay. Hmm. okay. Go back to Neville. And I'll come back down this way. And then I'll go to Longbottom. And then I'll bring him back down this way. I don't think you guys can see this. Trying to figure it out. Why can't I see this in OBS now? Maybe I have to delete and re-add each scene? I doubt it. Maybe I'll add a new game capture and I'll just capture a specific window and try doing that. See if we can see it. Can we see it? Doesn't look like it. Well, unfortunately, I may need to... I'm getting a black screen in OBS. It's not showing me the screen anymore. I scale it and it doesn't matter. Well, this is kind of buggy. Why is it buggy like this? I don't know. Okay, what I will do then is I will come back. So I'll restart the stream and it will record as a second video on the website. So on the Twitch website, you'll see the first video for the first half of the stream, or the first part of the stream, maybe not the first half because it's already really long. And then you'll see the second video for the second part of the stream. So